Integrity, good engine, good control.
We show the same. Feels great up here.
At MET, mission elapsed time of 1 day, 1 hour, and 14 minutes into the Artemis II mission. As Orion was flying 115 statute miles above Earth and 247,600 miles away from the moon, we have the start of the translunar injection burn that will send the crew around the moon, the first humans to do so in over 50 years. Velocity of the spacecraft ticking up, now over 23,900 miles per hour. 2 minutes into this 5-minute and 50 second burn. Continuing to get good calls here in Mission Control Houston from all flight controllers.
Integrity, we copy the enabled caution, no crew action.
Okay, integrity copies.
Over 3 minutes now into the translunar injection burn. These live views coming from Orion as it looks back on Earth, leaving high Earth orbit and beginning its journey to the moon. We are now 230 miles above Earth, 246,500 miles away from the moon. We have 1 minute left in the translunar injection burn. Everything continuing to look good. We have less than 20 seconds left of this burn. This is the final major burn for the mission because this also serves as our deorbit burn.
Integrity looks like a good burn. We're confirming.
Integrity copies.
Confirmation from teams here on the ground to the Artemis II crew aboard Orion. We have translunar injection burn cutoff and early reports that it was a very good burn. Orion now 520 miles away from Earth. Just 5 minutes ago, we were only 115 miles above Earth's surface. That distance will continue to increase as we are now on a trajectory to fly around the moon for the first time in over 50 years. Live views from the Orion spacecraft as it looks back on Earth following completion of the translunar injection burn, the burn that commits us to flying around the moon. It also commits us to a return to our home planet on flight day 10 and a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. But for now, these views of Earth as Orion starts its journey.
And Houston Integrity, we just wanted to share a little bit of the sentiment up here as we came around the planet, and we're zooming over just 100 nautical miles above it if you got a moment.
Please, Jeremy, we are all ears.
Well, with that successful TLI, the crew's feeling pretty good up here on our way to the moon, and we just wanted to communicate to everyone around the planet who's worked to make Artemis possible that we firmly felt the power of your perseverance during every second of that burn. Humanity has once again shown what we are capable of, and it's your hopes for the future that carry us now on this journey around the moon.
Hugs there at the Capcom console from NASA astronaut and Capcom, or capsule communicator, Chris Birch, with Artemis II backup and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jenny Gibbons. This is a live view from the Orion capsule looking back on Earth, our home planet. We are now 18,500 miles away from Earth. When we conducted that translunar injection burn coming up on about 2 hours ago, we were just 115 miles above our planet. Obviously, that has increased exponentially as we are now on the journey to the moon and back home. Currently, Orion is 223,000 miles away from the moon. This is Artemis Mission Control now, MET, or mission elapsed time, 1 day, 3 hours, and 10 minutes into the Artemis II mission, the first flight of humans around the moon in over 50 years. And we are going to the moon. After a successful translunar injection burn today, we are now over 19,500 miles away from Earth and growing closer to our lunar neighbor, now 222,000 miles away from the moon. The view on the left side of your screen is from Orion, a live view looking back at our home planet, that small dot. And down in the bottom right-hand screen, you can see Capcom Chris Birch wrapping up her Orbit 1 shift today, as well as Flight Director Jeff Radigan. They've been leading the teams throughout Orbit 1 and the translunar injection burn.
Integrity Houston, you ready for the event?
Houston Integrity, we are ready for the event.
ABC News, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call Integrity for a voice check.
Integrity, this is Gio Benitez at ABC News. How do you hear me?
Outstanding. We have you loud and clear. How about us?
I hear you loud and clear, and I truly cannot believe it. You are quite literally on the way to the moon right now and still speaking with us. Tell me, how do you feel? What's going through your mind? I mean, this must be so incredible because have you allowed the weight of the moment to really fit in here? Have you allowed that to happen?
Well, first and foremost, we all wanted to give a shout out to our families first because we are pretty far from Earth and we have not gotten to say hi to them yet. But there was a moment about an hour ago where Mission Control Houston reoriented our spacecraft as the sun was setting behind the Earth. And I don't know what we all expected to see in that moment, but you could see the entire globe from pole to pole. You could see Africa, Europe, and if you looked really close, you could see the northern lights. It was the most spectacular moment, and it paused all four of us in our tracks.
Yeah, well, you are making history. Reed Wiseman, Christina Koch, Jeremy Hansen, Victor Glover. Congratulations to all of you. America, the world is with you. We are watching every moment of this journey, and we will cheer you when you get back and along the way. Thank you for joining us. Best of luck to you, and safe travels.
Subscribe for more space.
Now that Victor Glover and Reed Wiseman are suited and in their seats, they are going to step through the leak check procedures. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is a demonstration of the crew putting on their suits on the Orion spacecraft. They would need to do this.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us live from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where we are beginning a new chapter in America's human spaceflight story. We are so humbled to have thousands of people here in person to witness this, and the many more watching online from around the world. I'm NASA's Megan Cruz, and this is NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers.
Thanks, Megan. What a historic day to be here.
What a historic day to be here. Obviously, for what we see right behind us here, the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft on launch pad 39B. Artemis II is a nearly 10-day flight test to prove NASA can safely fly astronauts around the moon before attempting to land on it in just 2 years, hopefully.
Yes, like you said, it's a test flight, so we're going to put humans on this rocket for the first time ever, and we're going to test out the systems on board and hopefully get around the moon.
And in charge of liftoff today is Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson. She and her team are just across the street from us inside of the Launch Control Center. They kicked off continuous around-the-clock operations just before 5 p.m. on Monday and started fueling the rocket about 4 hours ago.
That cap will also connect into the suit, which then eventually connects into the capsule. through an umbilical there, so there's a lot of cords and wires. You can see them tuck in that cord under his chin right now.
And so the suits they're wearing, they're called the Orion Crew Survival Suits, or OX suits. And so they're worn for launch and re-entry or during high-risk or emergency situations.
And welcome into Firing Room 1, a historic firing room here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here reporting what's happening as we lead up to countdown and liftoff of Artemis II. So far, looking pretty good. You see the rocket out there on the pad. It is launch day, and we just got that crew weather brief that you were talking about from Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson to the crew. It looks like a countdown at this point is in good shape, and that's great news. Fueling continues to track well. We just reached all stages replenished.
Now, Reed Weissman is a Baltimore native. He's been in space once before as flight engineer for Expedition 41 aboard the International Space Station from May through November 2014. And so now here we are, pilot Victor Glover. NASA selected the California native as an astronaut in 2013. At the time, he was actually serving as a legislative fellow in the United States Senate. His first trip to space was in November 2020 when he launched as pilot of NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission. That was the first operational mission of NASA's Commercial Crew program. And so it looks like Christina here has completed her suit leak checks as well, her communication checks too.
Yep, they've already got her gloves off. They're getting ready to kind of hang out and relax a little bit, I think, before they walk out.
She is a mission specialist for this mission, native of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Was selected to the Astronaut Corps in 2013, so actually same class as Victor. And last but not least, first-time flyer, Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen will fly to the moon as a mission specialist on the Artemis II mission. The London, Ontario native was selected as an astronaut in 2009. After that, he worked as CAPCOM at NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston.
The team you see here in this room today has been training extensively to prepare for the highly dynamic phase of flight that begins shortly after engine ignition. Teams here will be monitoring the flight of the Space Launch System, Orion, and of course the Artemis II crew on board as they make their way from the Kennedy Space Center into Earth orbit.
Yes, a pre-flight tradition that we have seen with our crewed flights and our astronauts, the card game, Nicole.
Yeah, you know, this is a fun time for the crew. Kind of relax a little bit, play a card game with the chief. You can see Scott Tingle there is the dealer today. Looks like they're playing high card wins. So Victor won. He's out. Now Jeremy's out. You know, there are two schools of thought on this game. Either you want to get rid of all your bad luck or go out on a high note. So it looks like the crew chose we're going out on a high note.
Now, the SLS, or the Space Launch System, very big, very powerful. It is going to be producing 8.8 million pounds of thrust at launch. And like I mentioned, very large, as you can see here, going to stand about 322 feet tall with Orion there on top, just a little bit taller than the Statue of Liberty.
And here we are, the closeout crew in the White Room getting ready for the astronauts who have just left crew suit up and are now walking down a hallway to greet some family and friends downstairs. Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen. And here they are, NASA's Artemis II crew. Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen taking their first steps outside for their historic test flight. To a wonderful applause from the crowd. They're looking really excited
Some
and
big
really
smiles.
ready.
I love that.
It's a great day for us. It's a great day for this team.
A few words from Reed. Great day for us, the team, he said. Thumbs up, more thumbs up. Of course, a lot of pictures. We hear some camera shutter clicks back there. I love the energy of this crowd. Let's go. And so now the crew walking over to each of their pens. The first people closest to them, of course, their family members who got to quarantine with them, correct?
Yes.
You heard Reed there saying, "Thank you guys," as the crowd picks up again with their applause and the four of them step into their astrovan.
And there they go.
And off they go. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy now on their way to launch pad 39B, where they will fly to the moon, something no human has done in over 50 years. They may also set a new record as the farthest humans have ever been from Earth, a record set by the Apollo 13 crew almost 56 years ago today.
Yeah, you know, we talked about how tall this rocket is earlier.
Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that point of view, yeah. And now we're watching the crew walk across the crew access arm, getting a beautiful view of Kennedy Space Center.
From 274 feet. Woo.
Nicole laughs because Nicole is also, like Reed, does not like heights.
Do not like how open that crew access arm is. Oh, and he's already turned around and walking in. You can see Dre's protecting his helmet and his visor there from all that metal.
Yeah.
It's a tight squeeze, but they've done this a lot, so Reed's already all the way across the capsule.
Yeah, that was fast. Impressive, Reed. Impressive. That's why you're the commander. Oh, a heart there from Jeremy again. Yep, Canada.
Yeah.
Canada is about to get into Orion. This is a camera shot of behind Reed's head. So Reed, while Andre is buckling him in, that's a 5-point harness, Reed was configuring his control panel.
Yeah, the displays. We're getting the displays ready so that they can monitor all of the systems and monitor the launch as they go. Christina there signing the wall.
That they're working there. And there's a heart from Christina Cook. Great to see that as she gets ready to get into the Orion spacecraft, one that they named Integrity. It certainly fits this crew from what I've observed.
Drag on camera, like we were saying, that kind of moves around, so sometimes it's hard to show that, so there you have it. You can see that the closeout crew has closed the side hatch. And so right now, that's a panel that they have to close out in order to then close the next hatch, which is the launch abort system hatch.
We are currently not working any constraints with regards to the rocket or the ground systems. But the launch team has been made aware of an issue that the range is working. And currently they're monitoring that work that is going on over at the range. We understand that issue is related to the flight termination system. Now, the flight termination system, just to give you a quick explainer, every rocket has a flight termination system. It's the system that the Eastern Range here uses in order to send a destruct signal to a rocket in case it veers off path. So it's a very critical, important safety component. The bottom line of all this is, at this moment, the range is no-go. But that is not stopping us from moving forward in the countdown. We can continue to process and work the countdown. The closeout crew will continue to do their work, and the launch team will continue to do their work as well. We're just getting an update, in fact, about what I was about to report out on the range, and the good news is the range is go.
As we see now, live inside of the White Room, at the launch pad, the closeout crew has closed the launch abort system hatch. You saw there, we took it live. Took a lot of them, I think all of them. Except for one. I think it took 3 or 4 of them to push that hatch door close, and then they felt around the perimeter of the door to make sure that everything was sitting just right.
We currently are hearing the launch team is working an issue that was reported out with the LAS. At least there's an issue apparently with a battery on the LAS. The engineer who is in charge of the launch abort system, sits on console here, reported that a temperature for one of the 2 LAS batteries is out of range. And although it's not a constraint for launch right now, it would be when that temperature is checked inside of T-minus 6 minutes, which is inside of terminal count. So right now the team is working some troubleshooting on this issue. Going to follow, of course, along closely with what they learn. But again, a battery temp for one of the 2 batteries on the LAS is out of spec, and the team is working to understand, first of all, whether or not this may be a sensor issue, or is there an issue with the battery itself.
We're one big NASA team, one big NASA family, and we have one major message before we launch tonight. Okay, guys, what are we gonna say? 1, 2, 3, go!
Great news too. Remember, the team was tracking an issue with the launch abort system battery. They appear to have cleared that issue, so we are go for launch.
All right, thank you, Megan and Nicole, and just want to give you an update on the launch abort system that you just reported that they cleared. They believe, they're convinced, this is an instrumentation failure. So there are 2 batteries on the LAS. The LAS, of course, and with the help of my 2-year-old son's model rocket, Daniel said I could use this, so it's okay. The LAS is right here. It's the tower above Orion. Orion capsule's inside of here. It's used to pull Orion off the rocket in case something's going on with the rocket, either on the pad or in flight. 2 batteries are bad. Well, I'm sorry. One of the 2 batteries reported an out-of-family temperature, and it was very much out of family. And so they checked their data going back into the vehicle assembly building where they recharged the batteries and worked on them. And they have good, solid data, they reported, that tells them that this is an instrumentation failure, that there's something wrong with the sensor. And so they took it before the mission management team, which has to accept the risk, any changes to launch commit criteria, which this would be one, and they all fully accepted it. So now we are clear as far as that constraint is concerned.
NTD COSE hold requested.
Copy that.
I have an LCC violation of O-CT-004, S-band transponder anomaly. This was a transient LCC violation, so transponder 1 had a demodulated SNR estimate that went down to 2 dBm. When it should have been between 10 and 13, it is now back up to 12, but we did lose that for just a moment. It does not appear that we lost our bit sync or carrier lock, which would be indicative that we lost our lock with the vehicle. So at this point, recommendation would still be go. However, we do have a pre-planned contingency procedure if we want to look at that. But again, this was transient, so we're back in a nominal range.
Yeah, us taking a look at the data right here, looks like that was a single sample.
Yeah, copy that. RFTS does report that they also lost lock for about 5 seconds. So I would love to ask KUS and see if they also lost lock with the vehicle for any extended amount of period.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the allowance is effectively up to 30 seconds, up to 3 samples based on the 1/10 hertz. This is not an LCC violation, I believe.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that at this point. Copy that.
We'll check in with KUS on 232. I don't think they have 212 access. We're trying to verify, but it sounds like they have a loss of lock as well. About 2 seconds. Okay. And I guess for both KUS and COSE, do we have lock now?
That's affirmed. We do have lock for COSE.
Yeah, so from the integration console perspective, we did have a temporary loss there within the allowable, and per the requirement, let's go.
And this is Houston Flight. We have lock and we have good telemetry here in GSE.
And KUS is reported to they have good lock now. So with all of that, OSC, then are we in a go configuration per your LCC?
Yes, sir. Recommendation would be go.
Okay. LP, you concur with that? Yes, sir. LP concurs go. And Launch Director?
Yes, sir. Launch Director concurs go.
All right. And for all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the Artemis II launch readiness check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
OTC is go.
STC.
STC is go.
GTC.
C's go.
MCO.
CO's go.
Safety console.
Safety console is go.
LPE.
LPE's go.
RTD.
RTD's go.
Houston flight.
Houston flight is go.
ROC.
ROC is go.
And CDR.
Crew is go.
Copy that. Thank you, Reed. And Launch Director NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
All right, NTD, I copy all. At this time, I'll perform my poll. Attention on the net. This is the Launch Director performing the final poll for launch. Verify no constraints and go for launch. EGS, Program Chief Engineer.
Artemis Chief Engineers are go.
Copy, thank you. EGS, Chief Safety Officer.
The Artemis CSOs are go.
Copy, thank you. Range weather.
Launch weather is go.
Thank you, LWO. And Artemis MMT Chair.
MMTs go.
Thank you, John. And Integrity Launch Director.
Good to hear your voice, Charlie. PLT.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Victor. We are going for our families.
MS1.
This is Christina. We are going for our teammates.
MS2. This is Jeremy. We are going for all humanity. All right, Charlie, your Artemis II crew is go for launch. Full send.
I copy that. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. On this historic mission, you take with you the heart of this Artemis team, the daring spirit of the American people and our partners across the globe, and the hopes and dreams of a new generation. Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis II. Let's go. Sir, you have a go to proceed with countdown.
Copy that. I'll put it in work. CDR NTD.
Go.
Figure your visors and initiate short purge per your EPROC 10.1.1, steps 8 and 9.
10.1.1, 8 and 9 going to work.
Copy. CVSE NTD. Start and verify recordings of our Orion cameras.
You heard an issue, worked in real time with telemetry lock on the Orion. It was transitory. It was very short. They checked the data, confirmed that they had a good lock. This was with the S-band transmitter on the Orion. Worked through that issue, looked at the data, and cleared it. All with the world watching.
All right, and we're clear from cutouts. And with that, we're going to resume the clock momentarily. And CGLS, you can resume the clock on your mark.
GLS copies. 3, 2, 1, mark. GLS mainline has been initiated.
T-minus 10 minutes and counting.
And that begins terminal count. Our new T0 is 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We are now counting down to liftoff of Artemis II.
GLS is go for crew access arm retract.
And there you see the crew access arm moving away.
GLS is go for ALS.
Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket NASA has ever launched. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
good. Roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time, passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate beacon. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance on the 4 main engines on the Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, Ponce de Leon.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Have you the same.
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour. Minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time, standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation expected at the 2-minute 9-second mark. We see throttle down. Confirmed separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
3 minutes into the flight. Integrity, 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange, now passing 5,000 miles per hour. Standing by for launch abort system jettison.
Houston Integrity, good last jettison, great view. We see the same on board, Stan.
And Houston has you loud and clear on Tidris at the Carmen line.
Outstanding, Stan, we have you the same.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis II, Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen cross the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison now working on internal checks to verify accuracy.
Integrity, GPS processing.
Outstanding, Stan, we see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
Integrity, nominal MECO, core stage separated.
We see the same on board, Stan.
Nine minutes of mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth at the beginning of their journey to the moon. This is Mission Control Houston, 25 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight of Artemis II. We have confirmation that all 4 solar array wings are deployed and latched. This is the configuration needed to switch to ATO preferred, which you did hear confirmed from pilot Victor Glover. That mode has been switched. Now getting our first views from one of the solar array wing cameras over the tracking data relay satellites. We are in a night pass as we are about a little more than 1,300 statute miles above the Earth, just east off the coast of Madagascar. can see the perigee raise maneuver from the main engine of the ICPS firing from the solar array wing. Standing by for confirmation of cutoff.
Integrity good, PRM, and 1 minute to Teeter's handover.
And with the regain of comm, we're starting to get some views aboard the Orion spacecraft.
Integrity Houston, voice check on Teedris.
Loud and clear, Stan Hallis.
And we now have you the same. Good to hear your voice.
In the meantime, Mission Specialist Christina Cook working on the activation of some environmental control life support systems and waste management systems. Currently, as teams on the ground analyze some troubleshooting of the activation steps that she was going through, she'll gather some of the backup waste management capabilities that they have aboard Integrity, just as a precaution while the teams assess how to address what was reported down from Mission Specialist Christina Cook on the fault light. At this time, the Flight Dynamics Officer confirms that it was a good burn, so they are on a good trajectory for staying in high Earth orbit for the remainder of this flight day and into next. The high Earth orbit puts them into a 43,730 by 0 statute mile orbit, which orbits the Earth approximately once a day. It's a 23.5-hour orbit.
For the first time since they arrived in space, you're looking at a live view of the Artemis II crew in the Orion spacecraft.
All right, Amy, welcome on board the Integrity spacecraft. We got, right now, myself and Christina are in seats 1 and 2, getting ready for rendezvous and proxops demonstration. Victor's just finishing up getting out of suits and getting suit drying going, and Jeremy is hard at work in cabin configuration. It was an amazing ride uphill. The views, we've got 2 moon rises that we've had so far, and the views of planet Earth. We've circled it completely, and we forgot how beautiful it is to look down on Earth.
We're hearing some comms from the crew as they are preparing for their proximity operations demonstration. And we have just had, for the first time in over 50 years, humans join the Deep Space Network. Now, we're used to people being on the Near Space Network, the Tracking Data Relay Satellite System with the International Space Station. But again, first time in 50 years that we will have crew traveling far enough to be on that Deep Space Network. This view coming live from Orion, now just 3 hours and 10 minutes since liftoff today from Kennedy Space Center. As you have heard, Mission Control Houston is go for the crew to conduct the proximity operations demonstration. Again, we will see the separation of the interim cryogenic propulsion stage coming up first in just under 12 minutes. Standing by for separation.
We have good separation, good motion. We are ATP go.
Confirmation, separation from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage.
Good motion. Go for 180 pitch, confirmed. Separation confirmed, Houston.
Houston copies.
All right, here comes the pitch rate. I see it. Look at that. Woohoo!
This view inside Orion.
I see the moon in the camera, and now I see ICPS in the docking camera field of view. Okay, waiting for 550. I'm on the THC. There's 550, starting the 19N. 1.
This is the view from
9. And
this is the view arrow. The docking camera is showing the crew inside Orion.
19 ends. Let's quieter. Got a little rumble,
Checking.
like we're driving on a rocky road, but much quieter than in the sim. I'm showing about 3 degrees wide on ICPS. And it's holding right near the center.
Integrity, no action for you on that enable prop caution.
No action.
Bit of ICPS. Did you see that photo off the screen on camera view? 0.8 degrees wide. Quite large. All right, I'm going to course. 9 degrees. 1 degree wide. Here comes 6 outs. 1, 2, 3, 8 down pulses.
Great view of the ICPS that powered Orion during the perigee raise maneuver and apogee raise burn.
4, 5, 8. I can see the side docking target. That is a good looking American flag. Wow. Happy going off, Fox. Great flying with you, Houston. Nice vehicle.
Great job, Victor, and to the entire crew, and we enjoyed your excitement at seeing ICPS out the window.
With proximity operations complete and the upper stage separation burn complete as well, we are now looking to the ICPS, or interim cryogenic propulsion stage disposal burn. We will not see this or get data on it. It will burn up upon re-entry over Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean. That actually looks like a crescent Earth there in the background. This view coming from one of the solar array wing cameras aboard Orion.
Subscribe for more space. Good afternoon from the Space Coast of Florida, where 4 astronauts are about to suit up for NASA's boldest test flight in a generation.
Our goal is to pursue the secrets of the universe, to change the world in air and space.
We have a ton of people gathering around the world to watch this history-making moment.
This crew cohesion, we're at the point now where we are ready to go fly.
I've had shivers run up and down my spine a number of times.
This mission is an opportunity for our generation. It's about human history. It's the story of humanity.
The question isn't go or not go. It's are you going to lead or are you going to follow?
This crew could be the first humans to journey around the moon in more than half a century.
The Artemis II crew is go for launch. Full send.
Let's go.
3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Artemis and Artemis II remind us that our greatest chapters are yet to be written. Well done. Go Artemis II!
The point is the end game. The moon has now become the center, the focus of this mission.
Artemis II is the first step in a sustained presence off of planet Earth in deep space. And if we are successful in doing that, I think Artemis II becomes just that first little teeny tiny curb that we stepped up on this really long journey.
And this view on your screen, that is Earth in the center of your screen from the Orion spacecraft. Again, a camera mounted aboard the spacecraft's solar array wing, looking back at all of us.
Good afternoon from the Space Coast of Florida, where 4 astronauts are about to suit up for NASA's boldest test flight in a generation. This crew could be the first humans to journey around the moon in more than half a century.
The Artemis II mission is a test mission of the Orion space capsule.
Artemis II will be the first time we put humans on this rocket. We're going back to the moon because it's the next step in our journey to Mars.
We were always going to the moon.
Pushing ourselves to explore is just core to who we are. That's a part of being a human.
And liftoff. We shall return.
Continuing to test out every bit of Orion.
Coming back to Earth, 7 miles a second. When humanity sets big goals, we can bring together genius from around the world. You have the best people on planet Earth putting this vehicle together.
That's what's up. To innovate for the benefit of humanity and to inspire the world through discovery.
And here we go.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us live from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where we are beginning a new chapter in America's human spaceflight story. We are so humbled to have thousands of people here in person to witness this, and the many more watching online from around the world. I'm NASA's Megan Cruz, and this is NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers.
Thanks, Megan. What a historic day to be here.
What a historic day to be here. Obviously, for what we see right behind us here, the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft on launch pad 39B. Artemis II is a nearly 10-day flight test to prove NASA can safely fly astronauts around the moon before attempting to land on it in just 2 years, hopefully.
Yes, you know, like you said, it's a test flight, so we're going to put humans on this rocket for the first time ever, and we're going to test out the systems on board and hopefully get around the moon.
And why does NASA want to return us to the moon?
Man, we want to go back for scientific discovery, right? We want to create a permanent presence on the lunar surface. We want to be able to harness some of the volatiles or the resources on the moon in order to get us onto Mars later. So we're going to use the moon as a stepping stone to get to Mars, but also we're going to use the moon to learn so much about Earth and about the creation of the solar system. You know, the moon is this untouched witness mark for the Earth and the solar system.
And what I really love is like all the things that we do to get us to explore our universe, all of that technology, all the jobs created to support that, it all benefits us here on Earth.
Yes, definitely. I mean, getting this rocket into orbit takes, 8.8 million pounds of thrust, right? And it's the people on Earth who do that and who create that, the engineers, the scientists. There are so many people who make this mission happen.
And so if all goes well, this crew could travel farther from Earth than any other humans before them and see parts of the moon no one has ever laid eyes on. And now, speaking of laying eyes, here we are in the suit-up room with the Artemis II crew.
Yes. Looks like the commander's getting his comm cap on, so the communication cap. Looks like Victor's already got his on and the helmet going.
He's just stretching out his wrist a little bit, right?
Yes.
And in charge of liftoff today is Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson. She and her team are just across the street from us inside of the Launch Control Center. They kicked off continuous around-the-clock operations just before 5 p.m. on Monday and started fueling the rocket about 4 hours ago. They have a 2-hour launch window that opens at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time, which our clock in the upper left-hand corner is counting down to. And, we just heard from Charlie Blackwell-Thompson in our tanking coverage, which was the broadcast just before this one kicked off. And basically, she said weather is 80% go.
Yes, 80%, we will take that. It's a little windy. There's some clouds building, but we're going to keep an eye on it, and 80% is a good number to keep moving today.
Yeah, and what she said was a wave of showers are moving west, but they should be well past the pad by the time we launch again. Hopefully at 6:24 p.m. today.
Hopefully.
All right, so again, let's head back into that suit-up room. We see Reed Wiseman. He is the commander of the Artemis II crew, and Nicole, he is putting on what you guys are calling the communications cap, the comm cap.
Yes, so it's a little bit for protection of his, of his head there, but also you can see the mic booms, and he's got ear cups there so he can hear, the rocket's loud. So you're going to wear hearing protection, but then we also want to be able to talk to Earth and talk to each other. So they're getting that settled, and then he will put the helmet on over that comm cap. That comm cap will also connect into the suit, which then eventually connects into the capsule through an umbilical there. So there's a lot of cords and wires. You can see them tuck in that cord under his chin right now.
And so the suits they're wearing, they're called the Orion Crew Survival Suits, or OX suits. And so they're worn for launch and reentry or during high-risk or emergency situations. And I think a lot of people, especially if they have been following NASA for all these decades now, they're kind of thinking, hey, these look like the suits that our shuttle astronauts used to wear. There is a lot of resemblance here.
That's true. Yeah, they are very similar. NASA does a great job of leveraging the lessons that we learn from previous missions. So dating all the way back to Apollo, some of our first spaceflight missions, we learned lessons about the suits and how to make them better, and we just continued to carry that through all the way into the Artemis mission.
Time now to introduce you to some of our teams today. We have Gary Jordan at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. He's going to be inside with the mission control teams, which will take over from Kennedy's launch control team right at liftoff. And then back here at Florida, there's Megan Carter inside Kennedy Space Center's visitor complex, Jasmine Hopkins at a launch viewing location, and then finally Daryl Nail inside the Launch Control Center with the launch team. Now, each is going to provide a very unique experience today, starting first with Daryl, who has been closely monitoring the launch countdown for us.
Yeah, and welcome into Firing Room 1, a historic firing room here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here reporting what's happening as we lead up to countdown and liftoff of Artemis II. So far, looking pretty good. You see the rocket out there on the pad. It is launch day, and we just got that crew weather brief that you were talking about from Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson to the crew. It looks like a countdown at this point is in good shape, and that's great news. Fueling continues to track well. We just reached all stages replenish. And while we're talking about the fueling, let's talk about that tanking. Pull up the tanking graphic if we could now. That will give us an indication of where we are with tanking, and I can just tell you, as you see from this board right here, we are all stages replenish. So all tanks on board the SLS, the 2 liquid hydrogen, lower stage and upper stage, and 2 liquid oxygen, lower stage and upper stage, are at 100%, and that's exactly where we want to be. This kicked off at 7:30 this morning with a go for cryo load, and here we are roughly about 5 hours later, and we're fully tanked and now in replenish. The amount of propellant on board, roughly 733,000 gallons. That's about an Olympic-sized pool and a half. Huge amount of propellant. It's all flowed in there. The great news there, no leaks, no issues, and we're looking good at this point. So let's talk weather now. The weather, while it is favorable overall, it's not totally clean, and that was hinted at earlier when we talked about the storms. There is, of course, some onshore flow. Currently, our overall attempt percentage stands at 80% chance of acceptable weather conditions at the time of liftoff, which is going to be within our launch window. That's tonight from 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time until 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Winds are good. The lightning risk is low. But scattered showers still remain possible around the Cape and including near the pad. So the expectation is that there'll be some more active weather coming our way, but we're expecting it to push to the west. So the watch item is really any isolated shower that could briefly move through the area and trigger a constraint, especially for flight through precipitation. Well, you're looking now inside the astronaut suit-up room, and of course we got the 4 astronauts there. They talked to Charlie Blackwell-Thompson today, and everything looks good there. We're tracking one minor NC issue at this point. We'll talk. It's a non-conformance. We'll talk about that a little bit later in our next hit. But for now, again, looking good. And of course, our administrator for NASA is here in the firing room. He checked in with the launch director, chatted with her for several minutes, and he's here in the firing room, which is a good positive sign, of course, for the day. That's it for the firing room. We'll send it back now to Megan and Nicole.
Daryl, thank you so much. Yeah, let's get back into the suit-up room here, where we now have a shot of all 4 astronauts, and it appears all of them are undergoing their suit leak checks. Can you talk to us about what that is, Nicole?
Sure. Yeah, you can see, as the suit expands, that we're going to pressurize those suits. So in the case that we need it, if we lose pressure in the capsule, those suits will protect the astronauts and keep them pressurized and keep them survivable. So these guys are going to hold their breath for about 10 seconds. Any movement in the suit could cause changes in the pressure, and so we want to get a really nice, precise, accurate measurement on the leak check. And so they'll hold their breath. Even just their heartbeat could potentially make some differences in those super sensitive sensors there. So you can see the red and blue valves there, the air in and air out, and it looks like Victor just had a good leak check.
Yeah, and actually they do 3 leak checks, again, just to get an average reading to say, hey, we have confidence that these suits are holding the right pressure. As Nicole said, that tube that's going in, that's putting air into their suits, and then there was that gold instrument that you saw on their other side. That's how they can control how much pressure is being released in order to do these checks.
Yep, and they will do the leak checks here in the suit room, and then they'll do more actually in the capsule as well. They'll do another leak check. So we're going to make sure the suits are ready to go before we even step out the door, and then we'll check them with the entire system on the capsule once they get out to the rocket.
And you might also notice that some of the astronauts, while they're doing their suit leak checks, you might have seen Victor gave an OK sign. You might also see a thumbs up, and that's because concurrently, while they're doing these suit leak checks, they're also doing comm checks.
Yes, yeah, we talked about the comm cap earlier and the umbilical and how they plug in. So yeah, they're going to test the comm, they're going to test the suit, make sure everything. They're actually probably testing the cooling system as well right now. You know, they're going to plug into the portable cooling system and make sure that all of that is working. So like I said, we want to make sure that we've got 4 healthy suits before we go out.
Yeah, this suit, 3 layers, so obviously it can get hot.
Yes.
So one of the layers is a cooling undergarment, and basically they flow cold liquid through that undergarment to keep the astronauts cool and comfortable before liftoff today.
Yeah, it's like a onesie with a bunch of tubes running around it, and the water flows through there to cool you down.
All right, lots of information to share with you all today. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. All you have to do is send your questions our way by tagging @NASA Artemis, and we'll try to answer as many of your questions live. And we'll also have some questions for you throughout the broadcast, so we hope you can participate in those opportunities as well. Okay, as we continue to be inside the suit-up room here, why don't we learn a little bit about each of our crew members? Right now, we are looking at pilot Victor Glover, but hopefully we can get a shot here of our commander, Reed Wiseman. Now, Reed Wiseman is a Baltimore native. He's been in space once before as flight engineer for Expedition 41 aboard the International Space Station from May through November 2014. During the 165-day mission, Reed and his crewmates completed, get this, more than 300 science experiments in areas like human physiology, medicine, physical science, earth science, and also astrophysics. They actually set a milestone for station science by completing a record 82 research hours in a single week. He also served as chief of NASA's astronaut office from December 2020 to November 2022, and Reed has 2 daughters.
Yeah, you know, I love, Reed is such a great leader. He was the chief of the astronaut office when they hired our class of astronauts. And so, you know, I think I have to publicly thank him for my job here today. But yeah, he's a family man, he's a good leader, and he's a great pick for the commander of this mission.
Yeah, I think, you know, in talking through some of his other accomplishments, obviously he has leadership qualities that makes him prepared for commander of Artemis II.
Yes, yes, he does. He's a well-experienced naval officer and now NASA astronaut.
And so now here we are, pilot Victor Glover. NASA selected the California native as an astronaut in 2013. At the time, he was actually serving as a legislative fellow in the United States Senate. His first trip to space was in November 2020 when he launched as pilot of NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission. That was the first operational mission of NASA's Commercial Crew program, which resumed launching American rockets from American soil to the International Space Station at the end of the shuttle program. Victor is a U.S. Navy captain and naval aviator who served as a test pilot, racking up more than 3,500 flight hours in more than 40 different aircraft. He and his wife, Deanna, have 4 children.
Yeah, 4 children, a lot of energy, but that checks, right? Because when I think of Victor Glover, I think of a lot of energy, smart guy who's always excited and ready to go. And there you go, he's smiling in the suit room this morning.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. All of them are. This whole entire crew, they're just a good group of human beings, of leaders, of friends, family. You know, I have never heard anybody say anything bad about any of these 4. They're also well accomplished, and they're also deserving of this opportunity to return to the moon.
Yeah, and they're also humble, right? They're just standard humans going to the moon, but you would never know that when you talk to them in a normal conversation.
And so it looks like Christina here has completed her suit leak checks as well, her communication checks too.
Yep, they've already got her gloves off. They're getting ready to kind of hang out and relax a little bit, I think, before they walk out.
She is a mission specialist for this mission, native of Grand Rapids, Michigan, was selected to the Astronaut Corps in 2013, so actually same class as Victor. She served as flight engineer on the International Space Station from March 2019 to February 2020. And during that time, Cook set a record for the longest single space flight by a woman with a total of 328 consecutive days in space. She also participated in the first ever all-female spacewalk. And before becoming an astronaut, Christina helped build space science instruments and led scientific field work in some of the most remote environments on the planet. Her hobbies include surfing, rock climbing, community service, yoga, travel, and photography. Again, so much. When does she find the time?
That's a great question. You know, one of the things I love about Christina is that she's broken records and she's achieved all these milestones. But one of the things that she talks about is, you know, she just wants people to set goals and go work hard and do something that's meaningful to you. And she really hopes that her records are broken as soon as possible. She does it for her family, and she'll talk about all of her nieces and nephews quite a bit. So just, again, another example of just a humble human who's got a great support system in her family and excited for the mission.
Yeah, she's always saying that she just wants the opportunity to push people farther, to push humanity farther, see what we can accomplish together. So, yeah. Again, all four of them say that. They're really in tune on what they think or what they feel like their role is in this mission.
Yeah, I think their legacy is going to be, you know, providing the shoulders for others to climb on.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, first-time flyer, Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen will fly to the moon as a mission specialist on the Artemis II mission. The London, Ontario native was selected as an astronaut in 2009. After that, he worked as Capcom at NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston. Capcom stands for Capsule Communicator, and that's the sole direct voice communicating with astronauts in space. He also participated in training exercises such as living on the ocean floor off the coast of Florida to simulate deep space exploration for 7 days. In 2017, he became the first Canadian to lead a NASA astronaut class. He also enjoys getting out on a sailboat, rock climbing, and mountain biking. Jeremy and his wife, Catherine, have 3 children, and he actually got to hang out with them over the weekend. So the crew arrived here for launch at Kennedy Space Center on Friday, and then their family members arrived Saturday.
Yes, yeah. As long as their family can quarantine with them, then they will stay, quarantined in Houston, and then they all fly down to Kennedy Space Center, and then you get to spend the last few days with your close family and friends. We actually do a behind-the-glass visit with some of those other maybe extended family members that couldn't quarantine with you. But yeah, it's a quaint time here once you get to Kennedy Space Center.
A great sign here, all 4 astronauts have removed their helmets. And that indicates again that all 4 have completed suit leak checks. And so, Nicole, what they're doing now is they have these pockets on their forearms. That's just somewhere where they can put personal items that they might want, right?
Yeah, just kind of stowage pockets. There's always something that you might need or want while you're in the capsule, and then also last-minute personal items if you want to put a couple things in there. So everybody kind of has their own unique stash in their pockets.
And then another pocket has emergency equipment that they might need, right? Like a signaling mirror, things like that.
Right, yeah, the suit is basically all in one. It's got the oxygen bottles there on their right legs. You'll see in a different shot, they've got pockets with survival gear in it, and that is to keep them safe. So if they had to egress the capsule, either from the launch pad or from the water, then they will have all of the survival gear with them. They'll have about 10 minutes of oxygen as well from that bottle so that they can get to safety quickly and safely.
We are now 5 hours, 3 minutes and counting from the opening of our 2-hour launch window, and we have our first questions from social media. Question here from X. So to be clear, this is not a mission to land, but to orbit the moon. Thank you, and thank our astronauts. Nicole.
Yeah, this is a great question. I think it's important to highlight the mission of Artemis II, where we are going to go around the moon. We're going to see the far side of the moon. We're going to see parts of the far side of the moon that human eyes have never seen before. It's very similar to the Apollo 8 mission, right? We're also potentially going to be able to see the landing sites for the future Artemis missions and kind of provide the overall context of those landing sites amongst the entire moon site there. So it's an exciting mission. We'll get to learn a ton about there's so much science that's going to be on this mission as well, right? Where they're going to do some science experiments on humans, learn about the stress of the environment, and we're going to learn about the radiation environment. We're going to learn about the suits as well. We've got some technology demonstrations that are going to happen. So there's a lot going on this mission as we fly around the moon and come back.
Mm-hmm. We always say it's about increments, right? Like we're making that next giant leap to Mars, but in order to do that safely and to do that thoroughly, incremental steps.
Exactly. And, like we said, this is the first time that we've put crew on this rocket. And so actually before we even head to the moon, right, we're going to stay close to the Earth, and we're going to check out all of the systems on Orion, make sure that it can handle 4 humans, make sure it can handle people sleeping, people exercising, all of the environmental control systems are working. So we want to make sure that the capsule is safe for the crew before we send them, almost 250,000 miles away.
Yeah, that was a great question. And we actually have another one that we'll pull up on screen here. Another question from X. How long will it take them to reach the moon, and how long will the entire mission last?
Another great question, right? So they're going to do a couple orbits around the Earth. They'll do a perigee and an apogee raise burn. What that means is that they're going to accelerate to get further away from the Earth, and they'll get into a really highly elliptical orbit first. And then once they get into the translunar injection, so they're actually on a free return trajectory, which means we're going to accelerate them, and then they're going to escape Earth's gravity, and then just based on orbital mechanics, they'll be able to come home without having to do another burn or acceleration. So it'll take about 4 days once they leave Earth's gravity to get to the moon. They'll fly around the moon, about 4 days back, and then land. So overall, about a 10-day mission.
Exactly. Yeah, these are really great questions, guys. We know that, again, we are sharing a lot of information today, so please do not hesitate to reach out. Obviously, Nicole, very smart here, and we're happy to answer any of your questions. Again, tag @NASA Artemis wherever you're watching this coverage. And now we actually have a question for you. Who would you take with you on a trip around the moon? Would it be your bestie? Would it be a pet, family member, or a seasoned astronaut? Think about that one. I know.
I like that.
I absolutely know what I would say. I think it would make my husband upset, but I have my answer here. But we'd love for you to go to NASA's Instagram or Twitch accounts to vote. Again, who would you take to the moon with you? Bestie, pet, family, or seasoned astronaut? Try to go vote, and then we will share your answers soon. Again, husband is not going to like my answer. And we're not the only ones with questions today. We will also hear from celebrities during our launch coverage. See what Stanley Tucci, Scarlett Johansson, and others want to know about NASA's Artemis II test flight. Plus, the surprise of a lifetime as kids marveled at the rocket and spacecraft rolling to the launch pad. Look at those cute faces there. Oh, I love that. Love those suits. And we'll show you how the astronauts will eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom while in space. Keep in mind, the Orion spacecraft is about the size of a 6-person tent.
Yeah, not super big, but, it's 10 days with your 3 best friends. So I think it's manageable for sure. But, every ounce counts when you're trying to get to the moon.
And as we continue to look into the suit-up room here, a fist pump for some of the folks in the crowd there by Victor. Why don't we take a look around the center here? We know that there are some folks who are already getting ready to check out the team here as they drive across KSC to their launch pad. Look at that. Oh, that's so awesome.
That's a great crowd.
They're waiting there in front of the vehicle assembly building. So actually, they're just down the road from us. This is a good crowd, as Nicole said. Oh, there they are. They just got their cue. Oh, now? Let me wave now.
Oh, yeah, they are excited.
That's amazing. So all of these folks, content creators that are getting behind-the-scenes access as part of NASA's NASA social experience here. So as you can see, very excited. The crew will get into their convoy and drive past them here pretty shortly.
Yeah, what an amazing way to share the Artemis story, right? By inviting these social media experts out to share the story as they drive by.
All right, again, let's take a look at the clock. 4 hours, 58 minutes and counting from the opening of today's 2-hour launch window. So why don't we check back in with Daryl with the launch team.
Megan and Nicole, and inside Fire Room 1, I'm listening to Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson greet the Ascent crew who just came on console over there at Johnson Space Center. So good to have the Mission Control team jumping on with us. So far, the launch team here in the firing room has had a really good morning. Really smooth tanking that kicked off at 7:30 a.m. this morning. They got to all stages replenish just before 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and it was an incredibly smooth tanking. That's great as we look here watching the crew and also with an eye on the rocket. Weather, of course, we've talked a little bit about that. It's favorable overall, 80% go for our 2-hour window between 6:24 p.m. and 8:24 p.m. We don't have an exact T0 right now because that's going to come to us closer when we get closer to launch, roughly about 20 minutes before liftoff. But it's going to be within that window and towards the beginning, provided everything continues to go smoothly along the timeline. And so far, that's been the case. I mentioned that there was a small issue in my previous live hit that actually was incorrect. There was no issue. I've gotten the good data now that I'm on the headset and listening into the loops. Avionics engineers are keeping an eye on a display unit inside Orion that's just running a little cooler than normal. It's not going out of limit. It's actually completely fine. But they just were noting the trend and reported that to the NASA test director. So they'll keep their eyes on that. But again, there was no LCC violation. And once they get the cover off Orion out there that's protecting it from the rain, they expect the temperatures inside the Orion crew capsule to stabilize. And with that, we'll send it back to the host desk with Megan and Nicole.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Now, Daryl is inside Firing Room 1 in the Launch Control Center, or LCC, as you might hear it referred to, which was built in 1967 to support Apollo missions. In fact, Apollo 11, the mission that landed on the moon in 1969, that was called from the exact same firing room. NASA then upgraded the LCC to support shuttle missions, and now Artemis. You can see there a shot from when we supported shuttle. Now with Artemis, the primary launch team for today is in Firing Room 1, but there is actually support staff in Firing Room 2 as well. And together they will propel this ambitious test flight off Earth.
We're going back to the moon because it's the next step in our journey to Mars. We need to go explore the moon. There's vast regions of unexplored areas with the coldest, darkest places in our solar system. This is a test mission, and when we get off the planet, we might come right back home. We might spend 3 or 4 days around Earth. We might go to the moon. That's where we want to go, but it is a test mission, and we are ready for every scenario as we ride this amazing space launch system in the Orion spacecraft.
But another reason we're going back to the moon is to fulfill NASA's mission, which is to explore the unknown in air and space, to innovate for the benefit of humanity, and to inspire the world through discovery. And when we succeed and when we accomplish the things that we set out to accomplish, that inspiration not only can set up new things to happen, but it also is a reminder in tough times that we're capable of doing great things when we work together.
The thing I love about the moon is that it's not just a beacon for exploration and this platform of possibilities for incredible missions like this, but it has benefits. That's actually why we're racing towards it. Those benefits are really wide in nature. You have everything from innovation, technology development, not only for future missions going deeper into the solar system, but technologies that come back to Earth. You have inspiration, a whole generation of people starting this pipeline of STEM workers and manufacturers and operators that are excited to see what you can do when you work hard and you come together as a team.
When I think about the 4 of us flying around the far side of the moon, seeing that Earth rise, taking images and video and sending them back to you, the feeling that I have inside is hope. We know that Artemis II is not the solution for humanity on planet Earth, but it is a contribution in the positive column. We hope that just for a moment that people will pause and say, wow, it's extraordinary when you look back upon the Earth with over 8 billion people and you see this concrete example example of what humanity can do, this extraordinary thing, when we set big goals and we work together to achieve them.
Now, Kennedy's launch control team takes us to liftoff, but then mission control at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston takes over. That's where we have our Gary Jordan embedded with that team. Hey, Gary.
Hey, Megan and Nicole, it's great to be joining you from here in Houston, Texas. I'm in NASA's Mission Control Center, where the Artemis II Ascent flight control teams, led by Flight Director Judd Freeling, recently started their shift to monitor the Orion spacecraft integrity, the Space Launch System, and the crew to make sure all criteria is met to commit to today's launch and the mission ahead. The team you see here in this room today has been training extensively to prepare for the highly dynamic phase of flight that begins shortly after engine ignition. Teams here will be monitoring the flight of the Space Launch System, Orion, and of course the Artemis II crew on board as they make their way from the Kennedy Space Center into Earth orbit. The lead console positions will be in this room, called the White Flight Control Room, a room which traces its legacy to the Space Shuttle program, with the first shift supporting STS-70 in 1995, more than 30 years ago. Each console represents an expert in a particular discipline, whether it be communications, propulsion, crew health, life support systems, or trajectory. And each of these individuals has a support team in other rooms, each ensuring that no data point is left unchecked, no procedure is missed, and combining efforts as one Artemis team to ensure crew safety and mission success. After liftoff, Mission Control Houston will be staffed around the clock over the next 10 days until the spacecraft is safed for the recovery teams and the crew is extracted from integrity and brought aboard the recovery vessel. The roar of a powerful Space Launch System liftoff is just the beginning. The mission is, of course, a test mission, and the first with humans on board Orion and in deep space. The crew's job is to put the systems and capabilities of Orion to the test, taking us closer to a sustained presence on the lunar surface. It's great to see the crew gathered around the table. Megan, with that, we'll toss it back to you as we continue to monitor from here in Mission Control Houston. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Gary. Yes, a pre-flight tradition that we have seen with our crewed flights and our astronauts, the card game, Nicole.
Yeah, you know, this is a fun time for the crew. Kind of relax a little bit, play a card game with the chief. You can see Scott Tingle there is the dealer today. Looks like they're playing high card wins. So Victor won, he's out, now Jeremy's out. You know, there are two schools of thought on this game. Either you want to get rid of all your bad luck or go out on a high note. So it looks like the crew chose we're going out on a high note. And, you know, I think one of my favorite parts when I talked to Reed about this is he was just excited to play a game with his old boss from Naval Test Pilot School. So once again, his boss today.
Yeah, and I love this part of the tradition because this is when, again, you usually see them like, yeah, laughing, but very focused still. But when they get to this table, laughs, high fives, smiles, just really a brief moment of levity in what can be and will be a very long day for them.
Yes, you know, it's a long day. There's a lot of preparation that goes in today, and so they're just, I think, at least for us, it was a nice brief moment of some relaxation, a couple laughs, you know, a moment to take a few deep breaths and reflect on the mission ahead, and then, you know, get some high fives as well.
And so with their bad luck dispelled, some good luck from Scott Tingle, let it seem like there, right?
Yes, definitely. It's actually a really fun tradition. You know, I think that card game is more steeped in tradition than anything else. Every crew has played that same card game.
As you said, Nicole, the primary reason for why they're there to suit up, to do communications checks, to do pressure checks all done, and now it seems like Reed had some words for the team in that room.
Yeah, you know, this day can't happen without thousands of people, right? And so the suit room is a great example of that. You've got all of the suit techs, and you've got your support team there, everyone who has made this day possible. You know, they've been working with the suit team for years at this point, getting ready.
So some fist bumps to the group. Again, the suit team are the folks dressed up in those white, very snazzy outfits. Special outfits that we can talk a little bit more about later. But each crew member was assigned their own suit technician. So as you said, working very closely with the same person to make sure that the crew felt comfortable and ready in these suits as they lift off from Kennedy Space Center.
Right, and each suit is slightly different, each person is slightly different, and so these suit techs know each individual super well. They know exactly how they like to get into the suit, exactly where things might get caught, or small adjustments that might need to be made. So they know their suit techs well, and their suit techs know them very well.
And so as we take a couple of pictures here, we really hope that you are learning a lot about the suits and the process of checking them out for a mission. But imagine the opportunity to get a hands-on demonstration from people who helped design these suits. Take a look.
Does anyone want to try on one of the gloves? I love showing the kids the suit. I love how excited they get about space.
Oh!
So that would be...
It just goes in there?
We got to bring some stuff for them to actually put their hands in, and some of them were very excited because they want to be astronauts when they grow up.
I would love to be an astronaut. That would be incredible. I'd like to be like an engineer that maybe designs the suits.
Whether it's the calm, the orange color, every aspect has an important function for our astronauts in space.
It's going to be amazing seeing astronauts up close to the moon again.
And that was a special event at Johnson Space Center. What we just saw there, obviously a big part of why this mission is so important to NASA, really just an opportunity to inspire everyone, especially kids, right, Nicole, to dream big and be curious.
Oh, man, yeah, the kids are so important, right? I love talking to kids. They are the future of spaceflight. They are the Artemis generation. And, if we could just inspire even one of them to go on to be a scientist or an engineer or maybe even an astronaut someday, that's a win.
And now let's turn our focus to the rocket for a little bit. Powering liftoff will be, again, NASA's Space Launch System rocket right behind us. And to learn more about SLS, let's go to Megan Carter, who's at Kennedy Space Center's Visitor Complex at an exhibit dedicated to Artemis and the future of spaceflight.
That's right, Megan. I am so excited to be over here at the Visitor Center, but not just because of launch. I get to introduce you to the moon board. This is obviously a very complex mission, lots of moving parts and pieces. So the moon board is going to allow me to break some of those things down for you just a little bit more in depth, starting with that SLS rocket. Now, the SLS, or the Space Launch System, very big, very powerful. It is going to be producing 8.8 million pounds of thrust at launch. And like I mentioned, very large, as you can see here, going to stand about 322 feet tall with Orion there on top, just a little bit taller than the Statue of Liberty. Now, there are many components that make up this rocket, so I'm going to point out just a handful that you're going to hear about a lot throughout this broadcast, starting with our boosters. These two twin solid rocket boosters are going to be very powerful. They are going to burn for the first 2.5 minutes of flight, and each one is going to stand 17 stories tall. They weigh in at about 1.6 million pounds each. Now, I am going to jump back out and I'm going to show you a little bit about our core stage. That's going to be known as the backbone, essentially, of our rocket, and it is made up of around 5 components, starting with this engine section down here. This engine section is where our 2 propellants are going to be funneled down through our pipelines, and they are going to be mixed at 2 different temperatures, very complex processing, and they are then going to go on to feed that fuel to our 4 very powerful RS-25 engines. These are going to produce about 500,000 pounds of thrust each at launch, and they will burn for 8 minutes. All right, now jumping up here, we are going to take a look, because I just mentioned those propellants. Obviously, we do need fuel, and that is why we have around 535,000 gallons of that liquid hydrogen. That's approximately about the same amount that you could fill an Olympic-sized pool, just to give you an idea. And then we're also going to have that liquid oxygen, and like I mentioned, there's going to be about 200,000 gallons for that one, and they are going to be funneled down through those lines that you see here on the side. All right, jumping up real quick, this is going to be our upper stage. That is where our core avionics are going to be stored, essentially the brains of the spacecraft. And then jumping out super quick, let's see if we can zoom in here, and we can. Those propellants I talked about are going to be stored at cryogenic temperatures. That means thousands of degrees below Fahrenheit, so they have to be kept very cold, and that all those bumps and ridges gauges there that you see, those are actually going to be an insulation spray that's going to help keep that rocket nice and cool, keep the propellants ready to go, and get us set up for success. Now, obviously, that was a very quick overview of our rocket. I have so much more to show you here on our moon board, but for now, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Megan. A very impressive demo of the moon board, but also an impressive system, obviously. She mentioned 4 RS-25 engines on the core stage, and actually we have one right behind us here, used during the shuttle program, and I got to get a closer look at it with Space Launch Systems Engines Deputy Manager Philip Benefield.
Okay, so Philip, in terms of size, shape, and function, what we see here behind us, exactly what we see on the pad.
Absolutely, Megan, absolutely. So this is the RS-25 engine.
Impressive.
We have 4 of these on the bottom of the SLS rocket to propel the SLS rocket in Orion into low Earth orbit.
And we've been seeing views of the pad throughout this broadcast, but you mostly only see the bell here. What's happening over here?
Right, so this is generally what we call the power head section of the engine. So the purpose here is that it takes in the propellants from the vehicle tanks, the liquid oxygen minus 297 degrees, super cold stuff. The liquid hydrogen even colder, minus 423 Fahrenheit. There's 4 turbo pumps on the engine that pressurize that propellant up to 9,000 psi in areas. It is all directed into the main combustion chamber where it is burned into hot gas that then is accelerated out the nozzle to produce thrust.
When you say hot gas, what are we talking about?
We're talking 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit gas.
Wow, so we're talking really cold as liquids coming into the combustion chamber, and then it comes out as really, really hot gas. How do you design, how do you engineer something to control both extremes?
Absolutely, it's very technically challenging. One of the main things here with the nozzle is that since you have the 6,000 degree Fahrenheit gas coming out, you have to cool that nozzle so it doesn't melt. And so the way the nozzle is constructed with these 1,080 coolant tubes. And so each of these coolant tubes flows a small amount of hydrogen. It keeps it cold, and so it doesn't melt during operation.
Wow. I mean, all of this science that you're talking about, it is truly amazing that you guys designed this for shuttle, and yet you've reconfigured it, retooled it to be able to now support Artemis. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's really amazing, the fact that we were able to use the heritage hardware on the Space Launch System. The engine itself, developed through the Space Shuttle program, many upgrades to make it more reliable and improve the thrust as well.
Perfect. Philip, thank you so much. I can't wait to see all 4 function.
Same here. Thanks, Megan. Enjoyed it.
And again, another idea and way that we are learning from what we've built upon and figured out all into this moment.
Yes, with so much more thrust and capability, like we said, we learn all those lessons from previous missions, and we get to involve them here today.
And here we are, the closeout crew in the White Room, getting ready for the astronauts who have just left crew suit up and are now walking down a hallway to greet some family and friends downstairs. Commander Reed Weissman, Pilot Victor Glover, Mission Specialist Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen. Looking excited, ready. Now in that elevator to take them 3 floors down. Thumbs up, one more photo. Oh, nope, a couple more people in that elevator. Those are important folks. They're going with them to the pad.
Yeah,
Bye, Reed.
This is a fun elevator ride.
Yeah.
And, you know, actually you couldn't see them because they're off camera, but the support crew that's actually in crew quarters with us is right there waving goodbye and saying goodbye to you. So it's a really special moment to say thank you and say goodbye to the support crew at crew quarters.
That's amazing. And so, again, they will ride down 3 floors. And then soon we'll walk out the doors that you see underneath the banner there that says their names. These doors, the same doors that astronauts who have launched from Kennedy Space Center have walked out of since the Apollo program.
Yes, and you can see another tradition is putting your patch on that archway as well. So I'm sure they did that over the last couple days.
They did. It's actually it's so hard to see because there's so many of them, which is also great, but it's on the door frame on the right-hand side, the very, very bottom.
Awesome.
Great crowd here. A shot now of everyone who is waiting to greet the crew as they walk out of the operations and checkout building here at Kennedy Space Center and will board their ride to the launch pad.
Yeah, this is a really great shot, right? Because you get to see a little bit of what goes on there. So you've got the close family that were in quarantine with them up close. They get to wave goodbye one last time. You've got a little bit of media in the background, and then you've got some NASA employees and a lot of the program managers off to the side as well to wave goodbye one last time and wish them luck.
Yeah, it's a really nice moment. Again, they have had some quality time with family, but this is their final opportunity to say, see ya in 10 days.
Yep, the last wave.
And so there are different pens of people, again, as Nicole was alluding to, specific to the quarantine rules that you followed in order to be able to have that access, have that closeness with the crew. And then on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, the Astrovan. And that is going to be the crew's ride out to the launch pad. This modified Airstream motorhome can seat up to 8 people inside. It has a TV and sound system, and we know they plan to watch a video during their trip out, right, Nicole?
Yes. So I think Top Gun is on the menu,
yes.
And then also Point Break, because Christina surfs. So I think they've got a pretty decent entertainment planned. So
I love that. It gets them in the headspace, the right headspace, to really just enjoy the ride to space. NASA's history with Airstream dates back to the 60s when the company created a crew quarantine vehicle for when astronauts returned from the moon. This picture here, President Nixon talking to the Apollo 11 astronauts inside said quarantine vehicle. Then during the shuttle program, Airstream created the first generation Astrovan, a 27-foot motorhome that transported astronauts across KSC to their launch pad. And again, that is what we're going to see today. A very similar picture. Again, the orange suits, the Astrovan, very reminiscent of what we have done before and how we got to where we are now.
Yeah, and it's a pretty cool ride. You get about 20 minutes to get out to the launch pad and watch a movie, listen to some music. It's kind of an interesting, and then along the whole way here at KSC, all of the employees from Kennedy Space Center come out. You can see in the background of the shot you're looking at right now, all of those employees and everybody lining the streets, waving and wishing them luck.
I think this is an emotional moment for a lot of people because this is the last time where a lot of people will be with the crew, because once they get to the pad, there's only a handful of folks with them before launch.
Yeah, definitely. This can be emotional for the crew, can be emotional for the families, of course. I mean, I got to wave goodbye one last time to my sister, and when we walked out those doors, and it's surreal. It starts to become much more real the closer and closer you get to the launch pad.
20 seconds now from when we expect the crew to walk out those doors. It must be really hard for them to patiently wait for these very specific milestones.
You've got a whole group back there that's telling jokes and keeping it light. So.
And here they are, NASA's Artemis II crew. Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen taking their first steps outside for their historic test flight. To a wonderful applause from the crowd. They're looking really excited.
Some
and
big
really
smiles.
Ready.
I love that.
It's a great day for us. It's a great day for this team.
A few words from Reed. Great day for us, the team, he said. Thumbs up, more thumbs up. Of course, a lot of pictures. We hear some camera shutter clicks back there. I love the energy of this crowd. Let's go. And so now the crew walking over to each of their pens. The first people closest to them, of course, their family members who got to quarantine with them, correct?
Yes. Yeah, so the ones that are close and waving, those are the immediate family, so spouses, partners, kids.
And we're trying to give them some privacy so that they can have their conversations with their family members. Christina there, she has her husband. Victor has 4 daughters and his wife, they're there. Reed, his 2 daughters are there. And then Jeremy, his wife, 2 daughters and a son. You know, when you were standing in their shoes, Nicole, when you flew for Crew 10, what were you kind of talking about? Like, did you really think about this moment and what you might want to say?
You know, they've all already done their real goodbyes, you know, in person. And so this is more just kind of, again, that last chance to wave, last chance to get one smile. You know, you see Christina there smiling. So this felt much less heavy and just, you know, waving and maybe cracking a joke or something, saying hi. So this was a really, really great moment for our crew.
Reed's two daughters there. Reed spoke about when he told them that he was selected to be the Artemis II commander. And he said he was worried. He's a single dad, didn't know how they would react. And actually, he said he was overwhelmed by their support. He woke up the next morning with cupcakes baked by one of the daughters, moon cupcakes.
Yes, I love this story. Moon cupcakes the next morning. Like, how awesome is that, right? Everybody needs their support system, and clearly he has that in his daughters.
Christina said she took a bike ride with her husband and wanted to tell him when the moon rose, but that it was too foggy. But she said he was still very excited and happy for her.
Yeah, the moon's still out there.
A close-up now of, again, Commander Reed Wiseman and Mission Specialist Christina Cook. To the right of your screen, as we pan left, we have pilot Victor Glover. Victor told his wife, and they told their 4 kids together, and he said that one of them just started yelling, "Let's go!"
Yes, I love that. Again, the support from the family is awesome.
And Jeremy said his wife and 3 children, super excited. He felt very supported. You know, he did have that tough conversation, obviously, of talking about the realities of this being a test flight, but he said they were super supportive. And now as he walks away, some kisses from Victor Glover to his family, hearts to Christina. Jeremy being a gentleman, pausing so that Christina can take a nice photo without him. Hearts too from Reed there. Hearing Victor saying, "Love you guys." Saying that to some of his crew members there. Woody. Some more applause from the group.
A quick wave to some of the NASA program managers, and I think Norm Knight's out there, the FOD Flight Operations Director.
You heard Reed there saying, "Thank you guys," as the crowd picks up again with their applause, and the 4 of them step into their Astrovan. Looking at the clock, very on schedule right now. Again, according to the very detailed timeline of launch today, they are expected to drive off in about 20 seconds.
So far, we're marching toward the launch smoothly.
Do you think they're queuing up the video?
Definitely.
And that's why they haven't left yet? They're like, we can't go without
Gotta get
our
your
point
snacks and movie
break.
ready.
Yeah. Where's the popcorn? Again, good on the timeline. Of course, they do have these very specific milestones, but this is not one that has to be completely stuck to the second and the minute.
Yeah, we will make up that time easily.
They will get a full security escorted ride out to the launch pad. It's a quick trip, 15, 20 minutes. The closeout crew at the pad still just getting everything ready for their arrival. configuring Orion, right, Nicole?
Yes, so they're probably laying out the seat restraints and getting all of the umbilicals set and ready to go so that when the crew gets there, they can ingress and start getting strapped in and connected to the capsule.
And in our smaller box there, we have a shot of our administrator, Jared Isaacman. Bouncing around quite a lot today, was in the firing room right after the crew weather brief, saying to the crew that they are good for them to start suiting up, and now here to wish them well as they drive out to the pad.
Yes, he's so invested in this mission. I love it. You know, he's been an active participant today, and exciting to see him there at the walkout. So in the van, they're probably getting hooked up to the portable cooling systems as well. So that would be my guess on the slight delay here, making sure everybody's situated, connected to cooling, and ready to go before they take off.
Right, because the orange boxes, we didn't talk about it when we were in the suit-up room, but if anybody noticed, there are these orange boxes, and that's what provides the cooling to those thermal garments. And so those boxes have been staged inside of the Astrovan so that once they got there, they can connect up again so that they're cool and comfortable on the way out.
Right, so they were off cooling from the walkout, you know, said hello to their families and the 80-degree weather here in Florida today. So it can get really warm in the suit quickly if you're not careful. So we want to make sure everybody's comfortable before we drive off.
And then when they get to the pad, of course, and strapped into Orion, then they don't have any need for those cooling boxes anymore. They will get that cooling through Orion, through the different lines and umbilicals that they'll be connecting to there.
Yep, that's exactly right. The Orion capsule and its environmental control system will take over once they're connected to the umbilical.
And so when we were watching them get into the elevator, I said, oh, there's a couple more people going in there. And they were, again, those folks in the white suits that we saw. Again, suit technicians.
Yep. And there they go.
And off they go. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy now on their way to launch pad 39B, where they will fly to the moon, something no human has done in over 50 years. They may also set a new record as the farthest humans have ever been from Earth, a record set by the Apollo 13 crew almost 56 years ago today. We still hear cheers as they drive away from the operations and checkout building here at Kennedy Space Center. Now, while the crew make their way to the pad, let's get to know each of them even better. First, Commander Reed Wiseman.
The moon, to me, it's the thing that connects me together with all the other humans in my life. I remember being a little kid lying in bed at night and just looking out at the moon in whatever phase it was in, and I was thinking, man, my friends that live like 20 miles away, they can probably look out and see that same exact moon. And then when I was in the Navy and I would look out at the moon and I'd be halfway around the planet, I would think, man, my brother can see that moon where he is and he's halfway around the planet from where I am. To me, it's a connection of life on Earth. We can all look up and see that moon, and it's always changing. The moon is never the same 2 days in a row. I love that. My name is Reed Wiseman. I'm the commander of NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. I grew up in a little town just north of Baltimore, Maryland, about 20 miles north of the city. There was a National Guard base nearby my house, and there were A-10 aircraft that would fly over every now and then. I just would look up at them and be like, man, I want to be up there. I want to go do that. And then my brother went to the Naval Academy, and I would go every year and watch the Blue Angels fly during commencement, and that just started to grow and grow and grow. For a while, I wanted to join the Air Force, and then I realized Navy flies as well, and they fly from ships in the middle of the ocean, and that was it. Like, done deal for me. That is exactly what I wanted to do for my career. Flying is freedom to me, especially when you're in a jet aircraft coming off of an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Nearest land is over 1,500 miles away. So when you come off of that aircraft carrier, you are truly just alone with yourself out there. It is a magical experience to be out there all by yourself in an aircraft over the Pacific. Just it's free. I think anybody who accomplishes something that they set their mind out to, there's no one thing that does it for them. It's a combination of everything. I mean, the way my parents raised me, the way my brother and I, the way our relationship developed over time, my friends, being in the marching band, going to college, setting my own course, learning how to live on my own, being mentored along the way, being, kept on the path to success, but being given the freedom to, make excursions and fail every now and then and regroup and carry on. I think all those things come together in the end to get you where you are. I've had to overcome, I'm a human being. I've had to overcome a lot of fears. I'm pretty scared of heights. I joked about that on the International Space Station, but it turns out I'm only scared like at the edge of a building. When you're up on the International Space Station, even though you're 250 miles up, I never had that feeling of falling or that I was, at risk up there. I just kind of loved the feeling of floating and looking down at Earth. There have been challenges all throughout my life. By far, the biggest challenge was losing my wife in 2020 to cancer and now raising two daughters who are grown up now, but that's been the biggest challenge by far I've ever had to face. It is not easy. Being an only parent, trying to work a full-time job, and raising two kids is something that I think about every single day. I'm very proud of the work I've done. I haven't always done it well, but I've always shown up and tried as hard as I possibly can.
And now Artemis II pilot Victor Glover and his journey to this history-making moment.
I do wonder what it's going to be like when we are really far from Earth and can see it. The sensation of being so far away from everything that you know. I had that sensation on the space station the first time I got to sit in the cupola for a really long time. So I can only imagine what that's going to be like from 200,000 plus miles away. My name is Victor Glover, and I'm the pilot for NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. When I was in 4th grade, I was 10 years old, and that's when the Challenger accident happened. And it helped me understand how the general public felt about the astronaut corps, right? Like, these are the people that we want to be, and that just gave me an easy thing to strive toward. The biggest fear that I've had to overcome in my life is doubting myself. Going to college when no one in my family had gone to college was a huge risk. I had more confidence in my athletic ability than in my academic abilities. I could play football with those college students that I saw on TV, but my classmates that I saw in the lab and around the University Union, I didn't know if I had what they had. I think addressing that self-doubt was a part of, swinging for the fence and trying to go get an engineering degree, not just go to college, but get an engineering degree and then go do something challenging and technical like flying. Apollo is known for sending humans to the moon. Artemis has an opportunity to continue the Apollo story, but I actually think it's important for this story to stand on its own. Artemis is a new program, and we're trying to do new things. And it's great to compare and contrast. When you look at our spaceship, you can see parts that were designed, built, and integrated in another country. When you look at our crew, you see that our crew is international. There are also men and women. And I just think that comparing and contrasting makes the story even richer. The piloting role specifically, I will have an hour and a half or so where I get to fly the spacecraft by hand. We haven't flown that many spaceships. And so the ability to fly one actually in space on a test mission is just a really unique opportunity. I can't tell you how I'm going to feel when we fly by the moon and see the moon up close and the Earth from 250,000 miles away, but I don't use the word excited because I'm focused. What we do, this is very serious and it's very risky, and we are all intimately familiar with that risk. And so if we go out there and we're successful and we can pass that baton on to Artemis III, that's something to really be excited about.
Great to hear from Reed and Victor in their own words about how they feel about this mission and their role in it as the convoy turns this corner here onto the road where the vehicle assembly building is and where the group that we showed you earlier today, ready with their flags. Wow, that group has expanded exponentially.
Love this.
Yes, this is great.
So many people.
Flags, oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, this must feel so special to the crew to see all of these people here to wish them well.
Yes, this is heartwarming. Look at how many people there are. Everyone is so excited about this mission.
Signs, people have made signs. I feel like the Astrovan has slowed down a little bit, to really take in the moment.
Wow.
That's amazing there. Again, crowds continue going. as we are now passing the historic Vehicle Assembly Building. This is where the Space Launch System rocket was assembled and stacked with Orion. Its history, of course, goes back to the Apollo days, but today it is home to the Artemis missions to the moon and beyond. Gosh, still people lining the route. Yep.
I love that.
I do too. It leaves me kind of speechless, you know, just to see all the support, all of the people who want to know that they're thinking of them, they're with them, and the fact that this crew specifically has always said we are going for all by all. This must be really special to them.
Yes, and that's just here on Kennedy Space Center. Imagine the rest of Florida right now.
Yeah. Mission Specialist Christina Cook, who holds the record for the most consecutive days in space by a woman. Let's take a look at what she has to say about this mission.
I tell a story, which is one that my dad told me before the Apollo missions when he was just a very little boy. He was looking up at the moon with his mom, and his mom said to him, "Don't worry, Ronnie, we'll never get there." Fast forward maybe 70 years later, it's his daughter that's actually going there. And I think that long arc is something that we can all learn from. The idea that the seemingly impossible becomes possible if you just believe in it and are willing to work hard and come together to achieve it. My name is Christina Cook, and I'm a mission specialist for NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. When I look back on my dreams as a kid, I definitely never thought I would actually get here. I was very pragmatic. Even though I'm a dreamer, I knew that the odds were way against me again, so I might as well do something I'm loving in the meantime. I definitely loved science and math in school and, did pretty well in those things, but I also loved being active. I was always outside. I loved things that made me feel small. I loved looking at the night sky, oftentimes between the pine tree branches, or I loved the ocean. North Carolina also has mountains, and when we go there, I just love the vastness of all of those things. I loved how they made me feel and what they made me think about, and the vastness of the universe and how much out there was to learn. I'm drawn to exploring. I'm drawn to challenges that involve both mental and physical, and I'd much rather be solving problems wearing a whole lot of equipment and in a harsh environment, and that's just something I've carried with me ever since I was a kid. Thinking about the fears or challenges that I've had to overcome, there are just so many. I mean, basically, that has been the journey. I always say to people, do what scares you, and that means I have to follow my own advice. So doing what scares me meant getting on a plane and going to the Antarctic, getting on a plane and going to study abroad in Ghana, applying to become an astronaut, opening the EVA hatch in the airlock and going out of it into the darkness, strapping myself onto a rocket. And so for me, I think that no matter what the challenge, recognizing that if people believe in you and you believe they believe in you, the challenges seem always a little bit easier. To me, the moon, it represents history. It is a witness plate. Everything that's ever happened to the moon is still written on the moon. Every single person has looked at the moon their entire lives. We see the same moon. That's something really special. It's just the epitome of a symbol of something that's in each of our hearts, but that's also represents exploration and reaching.
And as we continue to watch the convoy, almost at the pad, mission specialist and first-time flyer, Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen.
I have this very distinct memory of seeing an image of an astronaut standing on the moon. It's burnt in my brain because I went back to it so many times in my childhood, and I would look at that image, and I know it had a huge impact on me that humans had walked on the moon. My name is Colonel Jeremy Hansen. I'm an astronaut with the Canadian Space Agency, and I'm a mission specialist on NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. My elementary school years, I grew up on a farm outside of London, Ontario. I spent as much time as I could with my dad on the farm. I learned the value of hard work, for example. If I wanted to go to work with Dad, it was going to be a long day, and I was going to have to not complain, or I wasn't going to get to go the next day. I had a treehouse. I had a vivid imagination, and I changed my treehouse into a spaceship. I made all these dials and controls. I had circuit breakers for switches that I found in the barn, and I was exploring space in my imagination. The most important thing I did to get to where I wanted to go in life, which was flying fighter jets and eventually becoming an astronaut, is I shared those desires with other people. And it turns out, just like you don't go to the moon on your own, if you could, I would have done it a long time ago in my treehouse as a kid. You have to go as a team. I think the biggest impediment to achieving my goals was, of course, myself. And I think that's a common human experience. There are many times where just little things would get in my way, and my immediate interpretation of that was, well, now that goal is out the window. You know, people must have lifted me back up, and somewhere in the back of my head, that persistence came through. And I think that's a common human experience, to doubt ourselves. I've come to this, I guess, realization that I believe that we all have gifts to contribute, and the goal is to figure out how to use your energy towards adding positively to humanity's existence on this planet. But I love it when humanity sets big goals, like sending humans to the surface of the moon with an eye to eventually going to Mars, because when we do that, we can bring together genius from not just even in one country, but around the world. I've also learned from my indigenous mentors that they refer to the moon as Grandmother Moon. So you've probably heard of Mother Earth. They use Grandmother Moon because Grandmother Moon is responsible for the water in their community, just like the moon moves the water around the planet, affects the tides. And I think that's a really beautiful thing for us as we go back to the moon, to think about all the different cultures around the world and how they view the moon differently. And that's really neat because we all share that same moon in the night sky.
What's really neat too was that drive to the launch pad, that point of view to see what the crew is seeing as well, as their Astrovan rides up the pad slope and are now on the surface, about to walk up to their vehicle.
Yeah, you know, we talked about how tall this rocket is earlier.
Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that point of view, yeah. Pad 39B, another historic place here at Kennedy Space Center. Construction began in 1964, finished 3 years later. Apollo 10, the full dress rehearsal for the moon landing. That was the first mission to launch from this pad.
Yeah, you know, we've used this pad for a lot of missions. You know, we modified the pad in the 70s and 80s, and then the shuttle missions actually launched from here as well.
And then, of course, Artemis I took off from this launch pad, November 2022. And now here we are about to see the Artemis II crew get out of the Astrovan and make their way up the mobile launcher to the 274-foot level, where they will embark on their first crewed test flight of the Artemis program.
You know, I think that button in the elevator actually says space when
it
you
does?
hit it. Yeah.
Really?
At least on 39 Alpha it does. So I imagine it says something similar here.
Again, let's take a look at the clock as we wait for the crew to get out. 4 hours, 10 minutes and counting until the top of our 2-hour launch window today. Let's head back across the street to Daryl, who's following the launch team every step of the way.
All right, thank you, Megan and Nicole. And here inside Firing Room 1, we had a nice moment. The launch director, Charlie Blackwell-Thompson, NASA's first female launch director, standing up from her console, taking her cell phone and snapping photos as the Artemis II crew that she had just given the go to leave the astronaut crew quarters, driving by, and of course going up the causeway until they got there to the pad. And now we see them coming out of the Astrovan there and getting ready to ascend the launch tower. Well, we got a weather brief before they went out to the pad, and of course LWO gave a go. There could be some rain out there at the pad. It's already rained out there already. If you're in the area and you're watching right now, well, certainly you know that there's some rain in the area. There's going to be spotty showers that are going to be coming ashore here, and we expect that throughout our rest of our countdown. But we also are getting forecasts that there'll be some clearing as we get closer to our launch window. Big wave from Reed Wiseman there, and a thumbs up as the crew goes into the elevator to ascend the launch tower to go up to the level where they'll walk across the crew access arm and get into the white room. One of the things that you're going to start to hear now is from the crew themselves. We're going to be airing the Orion to Earth loop, which is the communications that's going between that crew and the launch team here as they walk them through configuring their various consoles, as well as getting ready. A nice moment here, and I'll just pause to just look and see as the crew walks across the zero deck, as they call it, which is the deck that's right there even with the engines, and they're taking a moment to go over there and stand up and gaze up at the 322-foot tall SLS rocket. This was part of the plan for the Artemis II crew, and potentially a rocket that could help them make history to go farther from Earth than any crew has before. The farthest distance from Earth when they launch will be roughly around 248,000 statute miles. They're expected to go about 4,000 miles farther than the Apollo 13 crew did. And now they've headed to the elevator to go up. Again, I was talking about the loops. You're going to be hearing from the crew as they discuss with the launch team getting various systems ready to go. And then closer to liftoff, we'll hear the operational launch team loop brought forward ahead of the critical pre-launch polls and then the start of terminal count. And that should be right around L-25 minutes, right before the NASA test director gives their poll and the launch director gives her management poll, which happens at L-17 minutes. Right now, a lot of focus is on, of course, the closeout crew. They've made the way for the crew to get inside the spacecraft now and walk across that crew access arm, and there they are. They have been working on a tight timeline, but they are ready to go, and they are ready to receive the crew and start putting them inside their Integrity spacecraft. That's it from the firing room. We'll send it back to Megan and Nicole.
And Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson, again, we mentioned her a second ago. Her team have been training extensively for this moment since Artemis I launched in November 2022. Today, they have a message for Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy.
Today, you carry the work of thousands and the hopes of millions. Every test, every simulation, every long day and night have led to this moment. This team is ready. The vehicle is ready, and you are ready. From the ground to the moon, Godspeed, Artemis II!
I love that. I just love seeing all of the people who have contributed to this mission and the fact that this is what they've been working for, and now it's culminating today.
Yeah, thousands of people have worked on this mission, and we saw there from the launch team, but human spaceflight is like the ultimate team sport, is what I like to say, and that's just a great example of our team wishing our astronauts good luck.
That shot there that we were just looking at was aimed at the elevator doors, again, to catch the astronauts as they make their way up to the 274-foot level of the mobile launcher. The mobile launcher is the structure you see there. It is not only a way for the crew to obviously access Orion, but also provides the fuels, communications, all that to the rocket. And now we're watching the crew walk across the crew access arm, getting a beautiful view of Kennedy Space Center.
From 274 feet. Woo.
Nicole laughs because Nicole is also, like Reed, does not like heights.
I do not like how open that crew access arm is. But Reed made it across, so that's good news.
It looks like they really enjoyed it. They didn't just walk straight past. Christina and Victor, we definitely saw.
Some thumbs up there,
looking out, yep, that crew access arm. And then Reed, he knows where that camera is. Taking the opportunity to, again, just tell folks, hey, we're doing good. Ready for it. Yeah. And it looks like they're actually probably signing their patch.
Yeah, there's a wall with patches there, and so each crew signs when they get up for their launch.
And so this is probably actually the first time a crew is doing this in the White Room of Launch Pad 39B. Don't quote me on that, but I think the signing started with the commercial crew program. So there's a lot of that in the White Room over at 39A, but again, this is 39B. Yep.
Yep.
And so now in this room here, the white room, again, we will see the crew don or put on their communication caps again, their helmets, their gloves, and remove coverings that they had on their shoes.
Yeah, so they want to protect the suits while they're walking out and up to the white room, and now they'll finish reassembling those suits. Put the boots on, put the gloves on. You can see they're working their comm caps now, and they'll work the helmets eventually as well.
And so as we watch this process unfold, why don't we take a couple of questions from you guys? What is the most difficult thing about preparing for a flight? Nicole, that question's obviously for you.
Ooh, this is a great question. You know, I think we get such good training. You know, this crew's been training for years. And so they know this rocket and this capsule inside and out. They know all the dangers. They know how to react to anything. So I actually think, you know, preparing your support system and your family, I think launch day is actually tougher for your family than it is for you. And, you know, we've heard the crew talk about the difficult conversations that they've had with their family to prepare for this historic test flight. And so I think, you know, the closer and closer you get to the rocket, the fewer and fewer things from Earth you keep. You know, they left their suitcases at crew quarters this morning. They left their cell phones, their laptops, everything. And so you are just a human in a spacesuit about to get on a rocket with all of your loved ones watching. And I think that can be probably one of the most difficult parts about today.
And while you were answering that question, Nicole, we did get a chance to check. Yes, this is the first time crew has signed the wall of the white room, again here at pad 39B. Let's take another social question now. All launch windows happen to be in the evening. How come? Obviously referring to the April opportunities specific to Artemis II.
Right. You know, this is a complicated answer. I don't know that I would have the exact mechanics behind it, but it has a lot to do with orbital mechanics and where we are in terms of the Earth and the Moon relationship. And, you know, like we said, we're trying to get on that free return trajectory. And so it has a lot to do with when we can do the perigee and apogee raised burns and the translunar injection. So there's a lot of math that goes behind these launch windows and why they shift and move and why we just so happen to be in the evening for the April launch windows.
Yep. You did answer it well. All right. And before we asked you guys a question, who would you take to the moon with you? Would that be a bestie, a pet, family member, or seasoned astronaut? Overwhelmingly seasoned astronaut. So, Nicole, you and I are going to the moon.
Was that your answer as well?
That was totally my answer. Again, like I thought my husband would not like that answer because he'd want to come along too. But I think if asked, he would also say seasoned astronaut. So
that's fair. Yeah, like we said, there's a lot of training that goes behind it. These guys can react to anything that comes their way. And so, yeah, if you don't have all that training, maybe you do want someone that's a little bit more experienced.
Yep. So correct answer, everyone. And now we have another question for you. What do you want to know about living in Orion? What the crew eats, how the crew sleeps, how to fly the vehicle, or how free time is spent? Another great question.
Yes, I'm excited to see what they say.
Yeah, so head to NASA's Instagram or Twitch accounts to vote, and we'll share the results as soon as possible. And while you're doing that, remember to also sign up to be a virtual guest for this mission. Just go to the link we'll pull up on your screen. As a virtual guest, you will get mission-specific information, notifications of any schedule changes, and curated resources straight to your inbox. You will also receive commemorative stamps for your virtual passport after launch and splashdown. Again, we really, really want you guys to engage with us, engage with this mission, come along with us for the ride. So yeah, take advantage of these opportunities to be a part of it.
Yes, it's a mission for all.
And so back in the suit, no, not the suit-up room, the white room. Well, they're suiting up. You can see why I might have slipped that up. So they are continuing to put on gloves. Reed and Jeremy look like they've been checked. Again, they've put on their gloves, their helmets. They've taken off those coverings on their shoes now that they're about to get into Orion. And then suit technicians are also helping Christina and Victor. And they're in this particular order, actually, because this is the order in which they're going to ingress into Orion. Again, we have Reed, Jeremy, then Victor, last Christina.
Yeah, and that just has to do, like you said, with the seat orientation. So as the astronauts sit down and lay back in the capsule, the left side will be Reed, and then below him will be Jeremy. So that's why they're going to get in first, to create space for then Victor and Christina to get in.
And let's talk a little bit now about the closeout team. We saw a few of these folks also in the suit-up room. Suit technicians were in there, again, to make sure that they get into the suits properly. And then a couple of them came out to the pad here to, again, do the same thing. Hey, are you comfortable in these suits? Is everything is as you expected? And then these folks here will help them get into Orion, buckle up. And so we were talking a little bit about their attire, specially made for what they're doing right now.
Yeah, so these, they almost look like, the equivalent of a flight suit, right? They're fire resistant. They've got the straps on the back for emergencies that mimic the same straps that the astronauts have on their suits, so that you can use the same exact equipment in an emergency egress from the pad, for example. So we can use the same equipment to get everybody safely away from the pad as required or if needed.
Yeah, always thinking about those contingencies, how to very quickly, if there were an emergency, get everyone out, not just the astronauts, but also the closeout crew if an emergency was happening while they were still at the pad. And so those suits, flame retardant. Also, when we see them crawl into Orion, you will notice that they are on their knees quite a bit, so built-in knee pads. Really a thoughtful design for the purpose that they're serving today.
Yeah, they're functional, which is exactly what we want, but also they're pretty classy looking. So we did a good job with the design.
I was going to say, they actually look like, the outfits that car racers wear, right?
Yeah.
And then when I said that to the lead of the closeout crew, he's number one if we do see him, Taylor Hose, he said, well, actually, we are kind of like a pit crew, like they're very quickly moving through the operations so that not a lot of time, not more time is spent at the pad than is needed, because this is a fully fueled rocket, Nicole.
Right, yeah, we want to minimize the time that we have more humans up in the white room, but also safely and efficiently get the astronauts ingressed into the capsule. And so that's their main job. That's so yeah, I like the pit crew analogy, works great.
And so, Nicole, as we get ready to see them ingress, I know you'll be, again, an invaluable source as we talk through this part of the launch countdown, because you've been inside a mock-up of the Orion spacecraft. And I know that because you texted me a photo that you took, this selfie in the mock-up, and little did you know I was going to put it in this broadcast.
Yeah, this was actually a really wonderful opportunity. Last week, our flight control team at Johnson Space Center hosted an open house of the Orion mock-up there in the space vehicle mock-up facility. And so I got to spend some time in the capsule with some of the flight controllers who are actually sitting on console right now and talk to them about everything inside the mock-up. So you can see I've got a bump cap on. It's like a small hard hat. There are a lot of, metal corners and things, and we are still squishy humans at the end of the day. And so they want you to be careful while you're moving around in there. But I got to see, how the crew will ingress. I got to look at the umbilical and the seat straps, and I got to see, the emergency equipment and the stowage and the toilet. I got to see it all. Got to talk about everything. It was pretty cool. It was a really great time. Michael and Bruce were great with me. They They answered all of my questions.
Yeah, because it's really good to be able to give that perspective because, and as you guys will see, yes, we do have cameras inside Orion and we'll of course take you in, but it doesn't give you a true feeling or idea of how big the space is, you know, how things are configured. Again, like when we see them go in, they're actually on their backs.
Yep.
So again, it's just hard to really get a sense of the inside there, but Nicole is going to really help walk us through that.
Yeah, you said they're on their backs and, you know, you have to somehow get there. And so they're actually going to almost barrel roll onto their shoulder to get onto their backs and their feet up on those leg rests. Actually, Andre's holding onto right there. You can see Andre number 2's inside getting everything ready for them. And actually, those leg rests for the pilot and commander seat will come off once they get into orbit to create some more space for them.
And it looks like we're getting ready to ingress here. Yep, thumbs up from Reed. Everybody configured with their suits, and so in we go. They actually get inside by walking backwards. That's the easiest way to get in, right, Nicole?
Yeah, so he will step down right over the flywheel or the exercise equipment that they've got in there. We'll talk to that in a second. And then you actually step down right on top of the toilet area backwards. You can see him going now. Oh, and he's already turned around and walking in. You can see Dre's protecting his helmet and his visor there from all that metal.
Yeah.
It's a tight squeeze, but they've done this a lot, so Reed's already all the way across the capsule.
Yeah, that was fast. Impressive, Reed. Impressive. That's why you're the commander. Oh, a heart there from Jeremy again. Yep, Canada.
Yeah.
Canada is about to get into Orion. And so you mentioned Dre. Why don't we talk a little bit about him? So that was NASA astronaut Andre Douglas. And he is actually one of the backup crew members for the Artemis II mission. He trained alongside the primary crew and will step in and if any of the 3 astronauts are unable to fly.
Yeah, Dre's actually a classmate of mine, so fellow Fly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we've worked very closely together. It's exciting to see him in this role.
Yeah, Virginia native, selected as an astronaut candidate in December 2021. He completed his training in March 2024 and was subsequently named as the Artemis II backup crew member just months later in July. Before joining NASA, Andre worked at the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, where he specialized in spacecraft systems engineering. His work focused on the systems that help spacecraft know where they are and how to get where they need to go. So obviously critical for missions to the moon.
Yeah, he's a wicked smart guy. He's got like 15 degrees, I think, or something.
Oh, my.
So.
And so now here we are back inside Orion, where the closeout crew, each one with either Reed or Jeremy. So it looks like Andre is with Reed. And this is a camera shot of behind Reed's head. So Reed, while Andre is buckling him in, it's a 5-point harness. Reed was configuring his control panel.
Yeah, the displays. We're getting the displays ready so that they can monitor all of the systems and monitor the launch as they go. Christina there signing the wall.
Got to put away the pen. The pen could be foreign object debris or FOD, which is bad for NASA. We definitely want to make sure that we keep track of everything and we know where everything is, because the smallest thing could prevent us from launching or affect the equipment out there.
Yeah, and you'll actually see that most of their tools will be tethered as well, so nothing can fall through a crack or drop.
And so as soon as Jeremy and Reed are good to go in their seats and connected to their communication umbilicals, as Daryl had said before, we will start hearing the loops, the audio mission loops, specifically Orion to Earth 1, which is the communication loop that the crew communicate on to the different teams supporting launch today. And as we said when we were in suit up, after they do communication checks, again, suit leak checks to make sure that nothing went wrong between the suit up room and here, and also to specifically connect them to the Orion systems.
Yes, this will be an integrated test with Orion and the suits to make sure the entire system is working and ready for flight.
And so you'll notice Reed and when Victor sits down, Reed and Victor are the only ones with the display panels in front of them. Jeremy and Christina will actually share a personal computer device, and that will be on Jeremy's leg, and that's how they'll continue to follow along with telemetry and data.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. This is one of the technology demos that we're doing, and so they're going to plug into the system, and it'll be a screen repeater on that that device for them, so that they can see what the pilot and commander are seeing.
OTC ask, MS2 is online for context.
This is OTC. Repeat.
MS2 ready for comm checks.
The MS2 ready for comm checks. MS2, OTC, Orion Earth 1, comm check.
OTC, it's MS2. Have you loud and clear on 1.
You're welcome, sir.
And so that was the Orion test conductor speaking with Jeremy Hansen, again, mission specialist 2 for this mission. So his communication check over, you heard him say 1, Orion to Earth 1, has been completed, a successful test. The rest of the crew here waiting in the white room. Again, as Nicole was saying, a little tight there for all of those folks. So Christina and Victor will wait until Reed and Jeremy are done getting buckled in.
Yeah, I think 4 astronauts and 4 suit techs would be a tight fit in that capsule.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at Bill. He's number 3 there, that the suit technician there. He is kneeling where Christina will be in order to get Jeremy situated.
OTC ask, commander's ready for comm checks.
OTC copies. Commander.
NTD, MIFCO 212, comm check.
NTD, have you loud and clear here as well.
I'll catch FTS on 194, thank you.
Commander, OTC, Orion Earth 1.
OTC, CDR has you loud and clear.
Good comm. Welcome, sir.
And there you have it, a successful comm check with Commander Reed Wiseman. And so...
And CDR, NTD on Orion Earth 1 for comm check.
This is Gary Bush. I got you loud and clear, NTD.
And good to have you on board. Good luck today.
And so now these 2 closeout crew members will finish up what they're doing here. Again, Nicole, walk us through what is happening here. They're connecting umbilicals, is what we said.
Yeah, they're strapping them in, so they're getting their restraints connected. It's a 5-point harness with a quick release, and then they're connecting the umbilical, which has 3 different, actually 4 different connections. So it's got the air in, air out, the water for cooling, and then the comm as well, the communication cable. So they're going to make sure that all of those connections are good to go, make sure the crew's receiving the cooling and the air, and then we heard the comm check as well. So they're just making sure the umbilical connection was good to go, getting them strapped in and ready, and then they will move on to Victor and Christina.
And so while we wait for that to happen, why don't we get another check of the launch countdown milestones with Daryl and the launch team?
All right, welcome back into the firing room 1 here, where some of the launch team is having some pizza that was brought by the administrator. That was nice of Administrator Jared Isaacman to bring that by for the launch team to enjoy. We're L-minus 3 hours and 44 minutes and counting as you can see the crew ingressing into the spacecraft. There are a number of things that are happening on the timeline. Of course, the closeout crew, they liken themselves to like an F1 pit crew, working quickly, methodically, carefully, as they go through their procedures to get the astronauts ingressed. Overall, there's a little bit of timeline pressure, right? There's only a certain amount of time as you see the astronauts going into Orion, only a certain amount of time that they can spend on their backs. They will be there for a few hours, right? So we're sitting at 2:40 p.m. Eastern time, and the window opens at 6:24 p.m. Eastern time and runs until 8:24 p.m. Eastern time. So 4 or 5 hours or more on their backs, and then they'll hopefully lift off for a launch. So, of course, the crew is mindful at the time. They don't want to slip into the window if they don't have to. And so they're keeping a tight lock on the margin, the amount of time that they're working there. And there's a heart from Christina Cook. Great to see that as she gets ready to get into the Orion spacecraft, one that they named Integrity. It certainly fits this crew from what I've observed. Now, right now, the rocket's tanks, they're in what's called replenish mode. So another factor for this closeout crew is, and the crew themselves, this is a fully tanked, almost ready to go rocket. It's got all the propellant it needs to go to the moon. It's just a matter of getting the astronauts in, getting them configured, and getting all the systems, the high energy systems, bringing them all online in order to launch this rocket. As they sit there, there is propellant boil off that's happening. All tanks are at 100%, but the propellant, which is liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, those two propellants are minus 423 for hydrogen and minus 297 for the liquid oxygen. They are boiling right now. They've been boiling the entire time when they've been in the tank. And that is vented out, as you can see. When we look to a wider shot of the rocket, you can see the venting and the little wisp of clouds that are coming out from the top of the rocket in the middle part of the rocket. And that is because just like you boil water on your stove, those propellants are boiling. Of course, their boiling point is much lower than water, and so it doesn't take much for them to boil. But just as if you were to leave your pot of water on the stove and just leave it there, what would happen? Well, it would completely boil off, and all the water would be gone. Basically turned into water vapor inside your house. Well, it's the same case here. So we are continually replenishing the rocket with propellant, liquid hydrogen and oxygen, running from those propellant lines that you see there going into the rocket. So that continues to go well. Overall look from the launch team here, this has been a very smooth countdown so far. The cryo tanking went exceptionally well, and the launch team is really in a good mood right now. Cautiously optimistic, understanding that with a system this complex, you can have something unexpected happen. But to this point, the firing room is really encouraged by what they've seen so far, and are especially excited to see these astronauts getting inside the spacecraft. L-minus 3 hours and 40 minutes and counting until we open up that window for launch. For now, we'll send it back to Megan and Nicole.
Thank you, Daryl. And, he mentioned that the crew decided to name Orion Integrity, and it was not something they came to easily. They really wanted to put in a lot of thought, and what they came down to is integrity is a value that NASA embodies, and also individually they felt like integrity is something that speaks powerfully to them.
Yeah, and I think the other part of integrity, it just represents the humility and the professionalism behind the entire team that built this rocket and got us here today. And so it's a fitting name for this capsule.
Yeah, like I said, I think the crew said it took them a little bit to decide on what they wanted, but I think they made the perfect choice.
I agree.
And so as the countdown to launch continues, we are reminded that this is an agency-wide effort to make today's launch attempt possible. We invited people across our NASA family to wish our crew a safe journey.
Go Team Artemis! Go Team Artemis!
3, 2, 1, blast off!
Have a great flight. Godspeed. We'll get you around the moon and home.
If I had a message for the crew, be safe, to have fun, to remember that we're all down here rooting for them.
I want to wish my friend and former student, Victor Glover, and the entire Artemis team best wishes and a successful flight.
Have fun. Take some really cool pictures. Can't wait to see you when you get back.
From the Earth to Sky team connecting NASA science to public lands, go Artemis.
We will see you in the Pacific, and you can count on us being there.
Greetings from NASA Langley's historic gantry facility,
where Neil learned to land on the moon and Orion learned how to swim.
We are with you all the way to splashdown.
Let's go fly from the Orion Human Engineering team. Woo! Like a full moon, your future is bright. Have a safe journey from the multimedia team in Cleveland, Ohio.
We hope to see you guys back safely in San Diego, maybe singing some karaoke.
Yeah, right, maybe. He knows exactly what he wants to do. After. He's like, yep, karaoke. I love that people submitted videos. You know, this is something that we actually asked as part of the broadcast. We were like, you know what, I think it'll be really fun. And the overwhelming amount of people who wanted to record something for the crew was really heartwarming.
Yeah, you know, this is the first time in over half a century that we're sending people back to the moon, and everybody is excited about it. You know, kindergarten to congressmen and all over the world, everyone is ready for today and excited to see this launch.
And so here we are again, still inside Orion with the closeout team, putting some final touches on, it looks like Victor's configuration there. Again, making sure that his harness is set and that he's connected to cooling, he's connected to communications, and he's connected to any other umbilicals that he needs to be connected to for Orion. Again, we are sharing so much information with you, and we hope you find it educational and fun. But we do know you guys still have some questions, so why don't we take another one now?
Tell us what the moon is like!
So cute. That wasn't a question. That was a demand. Nicole, you tell her what the moon is like.
Oh, man, that was so cute. Oh, man, the moon is really cool, right? So it's a lot of like gray and white and kind of shades of gray. It is something that doesn't have wind or rain or rivers or an atmosphere. And so we like to say Christina said it earlier, it's the witness plate to the universe. And, you know, it has all these impact craters because it's not protected. Things hit it all the time. Mm-hmm. Meteoroids, asteroids, all sorts of things hit the moon and create these impact craters. That's part of what we want to go and look at and learn about on the moon. Can tell us a lot about the age of the universe and the age of the moon. You know, it's 4.5 billion years old, and we can learn a lot from just looking at the regolith or the dirt that is on the moon.
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for that answer. She was cuter, Nicole.
I agree.
And then earlier today, we wanted to ask you, what do you want to know about living in Orion? And we told you to pick between what the crew eats, how they sleep, how they fly the vehicle, and how free time is spent. And the winner, most of you wanted to know how to fly the vehicle. And we are going to be doing that.
Yes, we are. You know, that's a great question, and actually part of what we're going to go do. So the rocket is fairly automated, right? There's a countdown, and the whole system knows when it needs to ignite the engines. But we are going to do some manual piloting throughout this mission. Once they launch and they separate from the ICPS, they're actually going to do a rendezvous and proximity operations demonstration. So what does that mean? They're going to take that portion of the rocket and they're going to try to fly closely to it. And so they will actually take manual control of the Orion spacecraft and try to get nice and close to the other portion of the rocket that had just separated. And so you can see actually a little bit in the view that you have right now. So for Reed, the left-hand person, his right hand, there's a kind of a joystick, if you will, on the right side, and then on the left side there's something similar. And so they've got, translational and rotational hand controllers in order to command the rocket in different axes.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, Victor said it himself, like one thing that he's really looking forward to is piloting Orion manually. So we'll get to see that during our continuous coverage. Again, we are covering this entire mission. We started with tanking, and we will go all the way through splashdown, so you will see what Nicole was just talking about, that proximity ops demonstration, where the crew will pilot Orion manually. And so, speaking of their 10-day mission, why don't we take a closer look at the crew's home away from home for the next 10 days. Here's Megan Carter again from the KSC Visitor Complex.
All right, thanks, Megan. Yeah, it's getting real out there, so I am going to bring you back to the moon board so I can show you just a few things about the Orion. Obviously, it is going to be very compact, sitting up there on top of the SLS rocket. Very compact, like I mentioned, over 355,000 pieces. So let me show you a couple key components, starting with these three fairing panels right there. When the rocket blasts off, obviously it is going to get very fast. It's going to get
on Orion Earth 1 for
windy, and so we have these three fairing panels in place to help protect our astronauts. I am also going to take you into a little bit closer look and talk about the LAS, or the Launch Abort System. This is the one piece that is going to be in place to protect the astronauts should something happen to go wrong in the first few minutes of launch. They can actually hit those abort motors, and these can activate within milliseconds, basically faster than you can even blink, and that is going to pull the crew and the crew capsule away from any danger. Now, obviously, we hope that those are not needed, and if that is the case, then about 3.5 minutes into flight, the LAS and those fairing panels will actually activate and jettison away. They'll fall away from the rocket, because at that point, the crew can actually abort the spacecraft safely by themselves. Now, we've talked a lot about the crew capsule right here. This is where they are going to spend the duration of their flight. We're going to talk a lot more about that one in just a little bit, but for now, let me jump down here to the service module. This is the one, we're going to think of this as the powerhouse for the spacecraft. It's pretty much going to provide them with almost everything that they need for the entire mission. Temperature control, removing the carbon dioxide, providing them with oxygen, so much more. You can also do course corrections and things like that. So, super quick breakdown, but as you can see, all of these components together are going to make the spacecraft one that is built not just to fly, but to protect, sustain, and bring those astronauts home. All right, lots more to come, but let's see where we are with the crew. Back over to you, Megan.
Hey, thanks so much, Megan. A lot of useful information there, and we did want to point out that you did hear over the
PLT NTD on Orion Earth 1 for ComCheck.
NTD PLT, I have you loud and clear on OE1.
And I have you the same. Welcome aboard.
And so, again, we are now hearing mission audio loops, specifically the Orion to Earth 1 loop, the communication channel for the crew. Successful comm checks by both Victor and Christina.
CDR, OTC Orion Earth 1.
CDR.
Yes, sir. Configure ARS to shoot mode per EPROC 10.1.1. Crew ingress and vehicle pre-launch config, step 1.
10.1.1 crew ingress and vehicle pre-launch config, step 1. Going in work now.
And so see, now we are privy to some of the countdown procedures that the team is asking for the crew to do.
Yeah, so they're going to work through some of these procedures and finish the ingress portion, as you heard in that procedure. So this is where the crew is going to start building their nest, if you will, running some procedures, getting the capsule ready for humans to be on board.
And now look at the clock, 3 hours, 30 minutes and counting until the opening of our 2-hour launch window, and we are pretty good on time. We are as we are expecting in terms of when ingress will be wrapping up soon. And so now let's bring Gary Jordan, again, our commentator inside of Mission Control at Houston. Gary, let's check in with you about mission preparations.
Hey, Megan, thank you. Yes, we're following along here in Mission Control Houston.
OTC copies.
And we'll stand by for those comm checks. And again, we're waiting for those comm checks. We did confirm from our IVA officer here in Mission Control Houston that all 4 suits have plugged in umbilicals.
And CDR, NTD.
Go ahead, NTD.
Yeah, Reed, we're ready to proceed with the voice checks if you and everyone else is.
NTD, Integrity Crew is ready for voice checks.
I copy that. And Integrity for the entire crew, comm check on Orion to Earth 1.
CDR. PLT.
MS1.
MS2.
Good comm check by all. NTD moving to Orion to Earth 2.
CDR. PLT.
MS1.
MS2.
Integrity Houston on Orion to Earth 1. Voice check for the entire crew.
CDR. PLT.
MS1.
MS2.
Houston has all 4 crew loud and clear on OE1. Stand by for 2.
Your initial word was broken, Stan?
MS1.
MS2.
4 crew loud and clear on OE2. We'll use 1 for the default. Houston out.
And CDR, NTD?
CDR.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to clear a couple of those messages on your screen here. Just want to give you a heads up that you'll see that.
Copy all.
CDR, OTC, Orion to Earth 1.
CDR.
Yes, sir. Perform crew suit leak checks per 10.1.1. Crew ingress and vehicle pre-launch config, steps 2 through 4. Annunciation of LCC O-ARS-001 will occur.
10.1.1 crew ingress and vehicle pre-launch config, steps 2 through 4. Going in work now.
This is Mission Control Houston. We are following along as the 4 crew members of Artemis II work through their voice checks, then the umbilical connections and various pathways to get communications from all of the...
refresh on your screen.
CDR.
Yes, sir. We're going to look to do a quick refresh on your screen if you guys are okay with that.
Okay, firm, just let us know when we can continue in 10.1.1. We'll go hands off.
(10.1.1) referring to the procedures that they have through the various phases of ingress and some of the checkouts needed to prepare for today's launch. Here in Mission Control Houston, the IVA, or Intravehicular Activity Officer, will be confirming the leak check status and watching as the suits pressurize to once again confirm that the suits are in a good configuration ahead of launch. Of course, for the teams here in Houston, launch is just the beginning. The first flight day is jam-packed with activities. Shortly after main engine cutoff, Integrity will enter into a coast phase while still attached to the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, or ICPS, and prepare to deploy the solar arrays. With power being generated, Integrity prepares...
Go ahead, MTD.
With that refresh, and you got to go to proceed with your 10.1.1.
Picking up 10.1.1, step 2.3 through 4.
Picking up the procedures, the crew again working through the various steps to prepare for launch, standing by for suit. This is Mission Control Houston. With visors closed, the pressurization tests can commence. We'll stand by for word of a good leak check on all 4 of the crew member suits for the Artemis II mission. Again, this is the very beginning of a very busy flight day for our 4 crew members. After launch, they have a series of burns to prepare for. The first major burn being the perigee raise maneuver that allows them to continue in low Earth orbit, and the next being the apogee raise burn that puts them in a high Earth orbit. This is an orbit that takes them around the Earth for nearly a day, 23.5 hours to be precise, and allows the teams, including the astronauts and the flight control teams, to check out critical systems ahead of committing to the next day's translunar injection. But before they even call it a day, Integrity will separate from the ICPS, and the crew will command. Command the Orion capsule to separate from the ICPS and turn around and approach the upper stage, but not dock. This is to test Orion's in-space maneuvering capabilities and provide further confidence in docking to another lunar space vehicle like the Human Landing System that will be part of the Artemis III mission ahead of future moon landings. These are just a few of the highlights of the very first of 10 flight days as we await for confirmation of good leak checks inside the capsule Integrity. And there's a lot more to this mission. A reminder that this is, of course, a test flight. The purpose here is to demonstrate procedures, systems, and life inside Orion on a mission around the moon for the first time, and give further confidence in the capabilities that are charting a return to the lunar surface. You may be able to see from this view the suits themselves inflating. This is, again, a pressure check, verifying that the suits are leak-free ahead of the ascent portion of today's flight. how you see the crew now with visors down will be the configuration of their ascent all the way through core stage separation about a little more than 8 minutes after booster ignition. All right, here in Mission Control Houston, we are continuing to follow along, standing by for confirmation of good leak checks. In the meantime, there are no showstoppers here in Mission Control Houston, and we continue to monitor the countdown to launch. Megan, we'll send it back to you over at the Space Coast.
Hey, Gary, thank you so much. Yeah, as we wait for confirmation of a successful leak check for all 4 astronauts, why don't we go back to Daryl, again, who has been following along with the launch countdown as we inch closer to the opening of our 2-hour launch window.
All right, thank you, Megan. And yes, getting some good communication. It's great to hear from the crew inside, even though it is as simple as a comm check. It's really good to hear their voices as they move through those various comm checks and then get ready for their suit leak checks. Fantastic views inside Orion that you're looking at now. Give you an update on the weather outside. We're still 80% go for our 2-hour launch window, which starts at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time and closes at 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time. That's the good news. The bad news is that we've got some rain showers that are starting to head in. Looks like it may miss the pad. Wouldn't matter if it rained on it or not, though. It's received some rain earlier today. Water isn't going to hurt anything out there at this point. But the rest of the area might be getting a little bit wet, which may include the hostess, so keep an eye out for that. As we're watching with the astronauts inside the Orion Integrity spacecraft, you'll be hearing more and more from them, especially Christina Cook, who is Mission Specialist number 1. She not only is going to be making history.
All crew, visors open, suit loop leak check complete.
OTC.
Okay, there you heard the suit leak check complete. They check those suits for leaks in astronaut crew quarters. They check them again inside the spacecraft. As you can see, the closeout crew, our astronaut support person moving around, turned off the camera, and so now we're looking from outside the Orion spacecraft looking towards, oh no, let's see, get oriented here. Well, there we go. Back inside, we've got the view. But basically what I was saying about Christina Cook is that she will have the role of reading.
CM is ready for closeout, performing video sweep using drag-on camera.
OD.
She will have the role of reading out a pressure reading that tells the team that
and CDR or NTD?
Go ahead, NTD.
Yeah, we're going to do another cleanup on those suit leak check messages that we got from since we're done with that now.
Integrity copies.
Yeah.
And that's communication going between Orion Commander Reed Wiseman and NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding. But as I was saying, Christina Cook will be reading measurements from the counterbalance assist arm. So you're going to hear her be asked by the NASA Test Director to read that. That CBA, counterbalance assist arm, it's mechanically latched by the closeout crew using tools, but there's a hydraulic assist. It's pneumatically opened and closed rather with a pressure assist that helps open it up. Not only that hatch, but also the last hatch. There's 2 hatches there that we'll see that will be closed, but this is in case of an emergency out there at the pad. If the crew, for some reason, needed to exit quickly, then they would exit the spacecraft by pulling that lever, which would open both hatches. Those hatches are heavy. The Orion hatch is hundreds of pounds.
HHP cameras 1 and 2 both set to record.
OTC copies.
And just an update on the launch countdown, continuing to monitor the team's communications here in Firing Room 1. Everything going really smoothly so far. We don't have any significant open constraints to launch at this time, so we continue counting down. And for now, we'll send it back to the host desk with Megan and Nicole.
Thank you so much, Daryl. And so we heard some of the communications over Orion to Earth 1, and it sounds like we are now moving into the hatch prep and closure phase. We will now start to see the closeout crew getting out of Orion soon so that they can start getting ready to, again, close up Orion, close the 2 hatches, and then get out of the pad.
Yeah, the closeout team will take the hatch seals off, and they'll inspect the seals, make sure everything's ready to go, and then do a few last-minute configurations before they close that hatch. And then, like Daryl talked about, then Christina will have a role in looking at the CBA there. So.
Yeah, you might have heard them say over the loops again that drag-on camera. So basically, it's a camera that they can move around, and you might have seen it in a couple of our shots already. But they will take that camera and literally go and inspect the seal that. There's 2 seals, actually, 2 seals that go around the entire area of the hatch just to make sure that everything looks good. And that camera feed is being directly shown to NASA teams who need to monitor that.
Yeah, they want to make sure there's not a single hair or piece of dust on those, make sure that there's no damage and everything's ready to go so that the seal, they will do a leak check on this hatch seal as well. Make sure it passes.
Yeah, and we'll know they're doing that because we will actually see one of the closeout crew members with a hand pump, and they will pressurize, again, just the seals, and they have to see if it will hold pressure for just a minute. And if it does, then they will go ahead to pressurize the entire Orion spacecraft, and then that again is to make sure that the spacecraft is holding the right amount of pressure. And that one's a lot longer. It'll take them like 8 minutes. Like it takes time to pressurize it, then they have to hold pressure, and then it takes time to depressurize it.
Right, and they want to measure the difference in pressures at the beginning and end of that and make sure that it holds the right amount of pressure so that when they get to the vacuum of space, obviously the capsule holds its pressure.
Yep. Okay. Well, again, as we continue to watch operations that are happening at the pad inside of Orion, why don't we go over to Banana Creek? It's one of our viewing locations here at Kennedy Space Center. They will have a spectacular view, and we actually have NASA's Leah Martin there chatting with a big group of people surrounded by a lot of folks on bleachers there.
Hey, Megan, yeah, tons of people out here today, thousands of people gathering at Banana Creek to enjoy NASA's next big mission and humanity's next great leap today. It's a gorgeous day, and I'm joined here actually by some people who are probably the only people on center who are a little bit more excited than me to see this rocket lift off. Where are you from, and why are you here?
So we're from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. We're a group of 7 aerospace senior engineering students traveling here with Josh Dobbs, former quarterback of the University of Tennessee, with his extraordinary Dobbs Foundation.
Now, you were actually telling me a little bit earlier, you're here local, you're from Orlando. What's it like being an aerospace engineer and then having the opportunity to come back here to the Space Coast and see this mission lift off today?
It is absolutely amazing. I feel like the little 9-year-old girl inside me is so excited. Like, I'm from around here. I grew up watching launches in my backyard, and so this seems like such a full circle happy moment for me.
Now, you are an aerospace engineer looking hopefully to join the workforce in the future. How does it feel to be here and see firsthand what that work does?
It's just so cool to see what I've been working for the last 4 years and then 12 years before that just actually be physically happening in front of me. It's something I never dreamed of as a kid.
And I'm actually joined here by the pastronaut himself, Mr. Josh Dobbs. Now, you have a history with NASA as well. You did an externship here. And how did that kind of play into your passion passion for aerospace and then the foundation that actually provided this opportunity for these students today?
100%. So I spent a month here around the Artemis I mission, which was a tremendous opportunity to learn about the space program and also what's next. And so to be back here for Artemis II, and unfortunately, Artemis I went in the middle of the season, so it's surreal to be here for Artemis II. And with my foundation, like, the goal is to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that I've had and pass them along to the future of the industry and give them the opportunity to see what all their hard work can accumulate into. So it's an honor to be here. We're really appreciative of all the engineers and all the hard work that's gone into this moment, and we're excited to watch history happen today.
Absolutely, and as a group, I think if you guys had one well wish for the team today, what would you say? I think we can all join together and maybe say, go Artemis. Go Artemis.
That was a fun interview, and again, just so neat to see all the people who are here. I mean, still hours before liftoff. Not even hours before liftoff, but hours before a 2-hour launch window. So people just really committed to being here and seeing it in person.
Yeah, you can see the Banana Creek is already buzzing.
Yeah.
There behind Leah. You could hear the chatter in the background. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, you could tell that it's a lot louder than we noticed because we just have very good mics. But, you know, she's obviously yelling over a huge crowd there. So super fun, super exciting. And yes, I hope that we all get to see liftoff here shortly. Okay, so as we know, Victor, Reed, Christina, and Jeremy will have their hands full during their mission. So for some of their test flight objectives, let's go back to Megan Carter at the moon board.
All right, as we have seen from those camera views, their capsule is very compact, obviously. So let me show you a few cool things about this piece. The Orion capsule is going to only be about 16.8 feet in diameter and a whopping 10.5 in height. Think of it about the same cubic feet as 2 minivans. So obviously every piece of that capsule has been planned with purpose. And a really great example of that is going to be these seats that we have seen that live view of. Now these seats are going to be out for launch, re-entry, and splashdown, but in between they are stored in between to give them more room for daily activities and things like that. While they are on board, obviously they are going to have a lot of things to do. One of those is going to be to manually fly Orion, as we've discussed, but they also have several other objectives as well. And they are going to be doing lots of system checkouts, checking out the service module, making sure everything is working correctly. They're also, like I said, going to have a chance to manually fly. Now this was taken during one of their training simulations, but as you can see here, they will have advanced flight displays, hand controllers, touchscreen interfaces, so much to work with and practice with as well. Now, while on board, they will also have the ability to eat those shelf-stable meals that are designed specifically for microgravity. I think I saw somewhere that one of their meals is going to be mac and cheese and brisket, so that makes the Southern in me very happy. All right, but they are going to have also some time to look at some things like power and propulsion. They will have 3 key propulsion systems that are going to help power Orion as well. And speaking of power, I want to bring you back to the service module real quick because I wanted to point out these 4 solar panels. These are going to take about 18 minutes to unfold like giant wings, and they're going to stretch 62 feet from end to end, and these are going to help power the service module and in turn provide what the crew needs for their journey. So as you can see, spacecraft is built specifically for what we need and to guide them and get them home safely. All right, back over to you, Megan.
Thank you so much, Megan. You know, it's taken thousands of people many years to get to us to where we are today. Let's meet some of the people of Artemis who've made this flight test possible.
I am the Artemis Launch Director.
I'm the Orion Crew Survival System Manager.
I am the Artemis II Chief Training Officer.
I'm the SLS Launch Integration and Mission Operations Lead.
I am the Recovery Director.
And I'm Boeing's Core Stage IPT Leader at Kennedy Space Center.
I am the Artemis II Entry Flight Director.
And I'm the Closeout Crew Lead for Artemis II.
Our job is to design the spacesuits that the crew will wear for the Artemis II mission. The team here at Johnson Space Center in the Orion Crew Survival Systems Lab does pretty much everything involved with processing the suits, designing the suits, qualifying the suits, testing them for the Orion mission.
The role of the Chief Training Officer is to manage both the planning and the development of how we are going to train our astronauts and run our simulations for our flight control team for the mission, and then go implement that plan.
Recovery team is responsible for three things. So recovery is what we call our nominal recovery situation, where we go recover the crew and the capsule at their designated landing site. Rescue is in case we do need to rescue the crew or they landed somewhere else that we did not plan. And then the retrieval is us getting the capsule if they did land somewhere where we did not expect them to.
My job on SLS is to manage the operations architecture on the SLS program. One of the specific things that we do is support launch operations. It means a lot to be a part of this Artemis team, to show the next generation in seeing what may come.
I am responsible for our core stage processing at Kennedy Space Center. My team is responsible for that core stage, and it's our responsibility to make sure that core stage is safe, built correctly, and there's going to be 4 of our astronauts, and it's going to get them to their ride around the moon.
I've been a flight director for over 10 years now. I worked on the Artemis I mission, and after that mission completed, I was assigned as the entry flight director for Artemis II. I can't wait to see the hatch open after splashdown. That's when we know that our mission will be complete and the crew will have safely returned to the moon and back to Earth.
Closeout crew is responsible for getting the astronauts up to the white room, getting their helmets and gloves on, getting them into the vehicle safely, connecting all their umbilicals, making sure they're ready to go for launch, and then closing the crew module hatch. The reason we do this is to expand mankind's knowledge. If I can be a part of that, doing anything, I want to do that.
The launch director role really is to step back and kind of take that big picture view of launch. How are we doing on any NCs? How are we doing on our timelines, our procedures? Artemis II is a beginning. It's going to inspire a new generation. It's going to uncover science. It's going to serve as a pathway to places that we have never been before.
And to meet more people of Artemis, you can head to the link we're going to put up on your screen there. Just, again, really nice to see all the faces that have put in the work, the time, the hours, the dedication to get us to today.
Yeah, so many professionals that worked so hard on this mission.
And what was really fun to see is, you know, we interviewed Taylor Hose, closeout crew lead, as he said, and that's who we are now seeing inside of the White Room as they are getting ready to close out Orion and close one of 2 hatches. We have the side hatch of the crew module as well as the launch abort system hatch, correct?
Yeah, the astronauts are in the capsule. They're ready to go, and now the White Room is very busy as they're getting ready to close both of those hatches. That's a great shot right there where you can see them. Almost looks like they're doing that hatch seal inspection that we talked about.
And so, Nicole, as we continue to see them get ready to close that smaller hatch, again, the crew module side hatch, let's take some questions now.
Sounds good.
A lot has changed since Apollo, and I have a few questions about what's next. What part of the moon are we exploring through Artemis, and what are some of the key points that NASA needs to consider when planning missions like this?
Were you expecting to see Scarlett Johansson? I think that took you.
Yeah, I mean,
took you aback.
We've talked about this, but everybody has an interest in this mission. You know, it's humanity trying to explore and go back to the moon. And I love this question. You know, what part of the moon are we going to? You know, eventually we want to get to the polar regions, the South Pole specifically. We think that there are volatiles there, so water ice, something that can be harnessed as a resource as we create the permanent base on the moon and then try to get onto Mars. But getting to the moon is a tricky mission. You know, we're going further than we have in a long time. And, you know, on the International Space Station, we're 250 miles from the Earth. And so we're pretty close. We resupply that spacecraft pretty often with cargo missions. But the further and further you get away from Earth, the more you have to think about the lack of cargo, the comm delay. You know, there's a communication delay the further away you get. And so there are different and unique problems as we continue to explore further and further out into the solar system.
And there is so much to learn about the moon. So it's no surprise that, yes, even though our goal is to to have a moon base at the lunar South Pole. The lunar South Pole is not the main focus of this lunar flyby. So instead, the crew is going to be focused on observing the far side of the moon. So this is actually an animation of what teams expect the moon to look like if the crew launches today. So this is, of course, the side that faces the moon, and this is the far side of the moon, which when, again, the crew does their lunar flyby on flight day 6, we are expecting this will be their view. What an amazing view and an opportunity.
Yeah, you know, there's so much to learn from this particular mission, because obviously we're not landing with this mission, and so they actually potentially could see the South Pole and kind of scope out what our landing regions look like in the context of the entire moon. But also they're going to see parts of the lunar surface that have never been seen before by the human eye, and so they're going to take these detailed notes. They're going to record themselves talking about what they see. You know, we do a ton of geology training as astronauts, especially this Artemis II crew. They did a ton of geology training working with scientists to learn how to pick out the unique portions that we want to go study. You know, what is the context of the moon? What parts of the moon look interesting and look different? You know, the impact craters that we talked about earlier. So really trying to take all the pictures, take all the observations, write down, talk about their observations, and record as much data as we possibly can for the researchers back here on Earth.
Yeah, it's so important to, yes, we're all talking about what they hope to do during this 10-day mission, but you really do have to think about all the training that goes into this. I mean, you have 4 crew members who won't, you know, have the support the way that they've been having the support. I mean, they'll be talking through communications, but you know what I mean? It's just them and the moon, right? So they need to be fully aware and equipped with everything that they'll need to do to be able to accomplish the objectives that we hope to accomplish during this mission.
Right, and their specific flyby around the moon, you know, the lighting will be different and the path will be different depending on when we launch. If we launch today, it would be different from tomorrow. And so, you know, they actually had to learn the geography of the moon so that they can orient themselves when they're on the backside of the moon, because they're not going to have communication. You know, they're just going to have a, I think, 45+ minute blackout while they're, while they're on the far side of the moon. And so they themselves have to know what things look like on the moon, how to orient themselves, and how to get the data that we're looking for.
Yeah, really ambitious mission. Excited to be here at the start of it. All right, so another check of the clock, 2 hours, 57 minutes and counting to the opening of our 2-hour launch window for Artemis II. This pivotal test flight comes 250 years after America began its journey as a nation. As we celebrate that milestone, a special live performance now of our national anthem by singer Ann Wilson.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
A beautiful rendition. Honestly, I'm a little emotional, a little speechless.
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean, again, we are a nation of explorers, a nation of curious minds, and to see us again 250 years after our Declaration of Independence was signed to when we are trying to return to the moon for the first time in more than 50 years, really powerful.
Yeah, leading the way back to the moon. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm. And that's so important to us. You know, we do want to be the leaders in exploration, but we definitely know we can't do that alone. You know, we often hear NASA leadership say that, you know, this is not something one nation can do. This is something that is a collaboration of nations, and that's why we have European countries. We also have Canada, again, joining us on this ambitious test flight.
Yeah, of course, you know, it goes back to the old proverb, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And we want to go far. We want to get onto Mars eventually, and so we're going to get to the moon first, and you can't do that alone.
So thank you again, singer Ann Wilson, for that beautiful rendition, again reminding us of what it is we are trying to accomplish for all, by all. We are now back inside the White Room with the closeout crew. Again, backup astronaut Andre Douglas, number 2 there, just outside in the White Room, which is right outside Orion there, with the crew seated comfortably inside. As you can see, they've dimmed the lights a little bit. The crew has the opportunity to set the ambiance, if you will. They were given the opportunity to adjust the lighting as they see fit, again, just so that they can get comfortable. It's kind of like when we are on a plane and you get the opportunity to...
Sure, yeah, you don't want the bright lights in your eyes. Also, you want to be able to see the screens well, or see the, you know, the tablet on Jeremy's knee well, so they're going to adjust the lighting to what makes sense for the mission.
And we saw in that very quick shot there, our best camera view of the 2 hatches is actually that drag-on camera, like we were saying, that kind of moves around. So sometimes it's hard to show that. So there you have it. You can see that the closeout crew has closed the side hatch. And so right now, that's a panel that they have to close out in order to then close the next hatch, which is the launch abort system hatch. And so, Nicole, can you just quickly, again, talk to people about the 2 hatches, again, crew module first, and then the launch abort system hatch?
Yeah, so the crew module hatch is the one they're working on right now. They just got closed. You can see he's torquing those bolts down. And that is the hatch that completes the Orion capsule. And then you have the launch abort system, which actually is kind of almost a shell that goes around the capsule and holds onto the capsule during launch. And it has its own separate engines that can pull the capsule away from the rocket safely in the case of an off-nominal data point. So it's actually looking at roll rates and attitude and thrust and all sorts of different data in order to make sure the launch is safe. And if it's not, then the launch abort system will pull the crew module away and get them into a splashdown zone safely.
And as we wait for the crew to complete closing that side hatch of the crew module, let's head over back to Banana Creek, where we have Leah Martin standing by with the person who designed this mission's zero gravity indicator, named RISE. It was 2nd grader Lucas Yee from California. Hey, Leah.
Hey, Megan. Yes, of the many special guests we have with us today, I think one of our most exciting guests is Lucas, who's joining us, like you said, all the way from California. He and his family actually worked this as a group project to design the zero gravity indicator. Lucas, can you tell us a little bit about your design?
Yeah.
So you named him RISE. Can you tell me why you picked that name?
It was very remote, representing the Artemis II launch and Earthrise. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So were you really excited to find out that you won the competition and that your zero gravity indicator would be going to space?
Yeah.
So how does it feel? We're actually just across the river right now from Artemis. We can see it from where we're standing. How does it feel to know that design you created is actually currently on that rocket just a couple hours away from going to space?
Really, 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 really surprised and very happy.
And very happy. Now, Mom, you were telling me on the way over here that it was kind of hitting you what was happening. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's definitely very surreal to be here in person. It's definitely very surreal to be here in person. That Commander Weissman said that it's for all and by all. That we couldn't have said it better. We're just very grateful to be here. Super, super excited.
And we're so excited to have you here too. Now, Oliver, this is your first launch too. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And how does it feel to be here just a little bit away from watching the first group of astronauts in your lifetime on their way to the moon?
It feels like very, very happy and surprised.
So if you had one word of encouragement or something to say to the crew who's sitting on that rocket right now, what would you say?
What?
Go Artemis.
Go Artemis.
Go Artemis. Thanks so much, Megan.
I would say have a nice trip.
Yeah. You would say have a nice trip?
I did hear that answer. I would say have a nice trip. You know, Leah, that was a hard question. You know, it's really hard to come up with the spot what to say to the crew who's about to make history today.
Yeah.
And so the Artemis II crew, again, ZGI, Zero Gravity Indicator. It's a plushie, a soft toy that is brought in to the spacecraft with astronauts so that it can be a visual indicator for when we have reached the weightlessness of space, right?
Yeah, you saw a little replica there that Lucas had, and then in some of the views in the cabin view, you could see it swinging and hanging earlier. So I think actually Jenny was the one who installed it into the capsule.
Oh, really?
Yesterday, yeah. So.
Oh, we have to unpack a lot here. We got to talk about Jenny, who we will get to here in a second. But then, yes, we will also go back into the capsule so that we can show you where the ZGI is now. But the ZGI was chosen by the crew after a contest where the crew asked for submissions. They got submissions from around the world to, again, design their ZGI that is going with them to the moon.
It's kind of like any other road trip. You need clothes, food, a map, your favorite toy. Really. Except this toy has a job to do up there because this is a zero gravity indicator. While not a scientific instrument, this safe and soft object tells the strapped-in astronauts that they've reached weightlessness. For Artemis II, the crew wanted a one-of-a-kind ZGI, so we asked you to come up with it.
Thanks everyone for sending in your entries from around the world. Over 2,600 of you submitted.
And we loved seeing all of your contributions. It was a really difficult decision because each design had a unique quality that stood out to our crew.
In the end, we were able to narrow it down to a top 5 from Finland, Canada, Peru, and 2 from the United States, Kansas and California.
In the end, we went with one called Rise. It was a design inspired by the Earthrise photo taken on Apollo 8, which is very special to our crew.
With the winner chosen, next came the task of bringing it to life here in the Thermal Blanket Lab at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. This lab specializes in custom materials to protect sensitive spacecraft equipment and is perfect for creating a ZGI that meets the rigorous safety standards of NASA.
Because you have to be concerned with whether the thread's going to outgas or if it will hold up, if it's flame retardant.
This is the Rise ZGI doll. All I have left to do is to close the opening here and hand sew the hat on, make sure its stuffing is stuffed in there, and we have our pocket here for the SD card.
And on that tiny SD card will be millions of names submitted to virtually join the crew aboard Orion.
Got Rise. Not the real one, obviously, but this is a replica. I mean, so clever for Lucas and his family to design.
Yeah, I love that he replicated the famous picture that we all love of Earthrise. And then I love that the bill represents the space in between the moon and Earth. It's just such a cute and wonderful way to represent this mission.
Yeah, and again, Earthrise, very important to this crew. It harkens back to the picture that was taken by the Apollo 8 crew where they saw Earthrise. And so very appropriate since, again, now here we are going to see Earthrise again with this mission.
Yep.
So yeah, so this is little Rise here. And then you heard in that video that there is an SD card that is zipped inside with the real ZGI with the crew. So get this, more than 5 million people submitted their names as part of NASA's Send Your Name to Space campaign. And actually, Christina said that her niece and nephew's names are inside that SD card.
How cool is that? Her nieces and nephews are going to go with her.
Yeah. Love this. Love that people are engaging in such a cool way. And actually, if we take a look back inside of Orion, we can actually see the actual ZGI inside with the crew. As we said, the purpose of zero gravity indicator is to show when we've reached the weightlessness of space. Now, I know that it's probably dark in there because, as we said, the crew decided to just dim it a little bit for them. But here again, as we see, Reed on your left, Victor on your right. Below Victor, or next to Victor, again, because they're on their back, it's a little weird. It's a little hard to explain their orientation. But between basically Victor and Christina is where Jenny Gibbons has placed the zero gravity indicator. And Jenny, who, again, Nicole just brought up, Jenny is one of the backup crew members. So we mentioned how Andre is the backup crew member for the NASA astronauts. Jenny is the backup crew member for Jeremy.
Yeah, Jenny's one of our Canadian astronauts. And yeah, so she's been also helping with preparations for today and helping get the White Room ready, get the capsule ready. And she's actually going to be a Capcom for Artemis II as well.
Yeah, she's from Calgary, Alberta, completed astronaut training in 2020, mechanical engineer, combustion scientist, and actually before becoming an astronaut, she was an assistant professor. So again, another very well-accomplished person on the team. And I know the Artemis II crew has really enjoyed working alongside both Andre and Jenny.
Yeah, actually, Jenny was our EBQ mentor when I went through our ASCANner initial training, so she helped us with all of our spacewalk training, which was kind of cool as well.
Okay, and there we have Andre again, number 2, with the rest of the closeout crew team there. Why don't we get another check with Daryl and see how the launch countdown is going.
Still going quite smoothly here from Firing Room 1 here at the Kennedy Space Center. Launch team working no major constraints to launch, which is great news. We did get an update on a weather balloon that the launch weather officer and his team released. This is an important weather balloon released at right around the 3-hour mark. And what it told us is that winds are around 10 to 11 knots in the upper parts of the atmosphere. That's important information for the launch abort system should the astronauts need the LAS. This would, of course, pull the Orion spacecraft off the top of the rocket in case there were an emergency, and then take them offshore to a water landing in the Atlantic Ocean. And so the winds are pushing onshore. And because they're pushing onshore, the launch weather officer is keeping a close eye on the strength of those winds, because if the Orion were to come off the top, and it's powered by 3 rocket motors which can propel it or pull it especially fast off the top of the rocket, it would go up into the air thousands of feet and then splash down in the water. And if you've got wind pushing against it, you don't want that spacecraft to come back and land on land. So they're watching that very closely because of the onshore flow. That onshore flow is also what's giving us a little weather action down to the south of us along what's called the beach line, 528. We got a whole lot of people out there. We're getting ready to watch the Artemis II historic launch. Well, they just got a good soaking. Line of rain showers, I should say, pass through that area and soak the place. Certainly rain is a possibility. Spotty showers from time to to time. But overall, the launch weather officer tells us that we are trending towards getting that stuff to all push to the west the closer we get to our launch window. A reminder, that window is from 6:24 p.m. to 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time. We don't have a specific T0 at this moment. There's a lot that needs to be calculated before we get there. We also need to get through the rest of the countdown on time. As of right now, we are right on time. The launch countdown is going exactly as planned. That's not something that we saw certainly in Artemis I. There was a lot of flexing in the timeline during those 3 launch attempts back in 2022. But so far today, on our first launch attempt, we're really enjoying some really solid countdown work, some solid operations by the launch team so far. And to quote our friend Lucas, who created Earthrise, we all really like that. We'll send it back to the host desk.
Thanks so much, Daryl. Yes, we really like that, and we really like Rise and Lucas. So thank you for that. That was really cute. Okay, so again, here we are in the big box here. We have our full view of the rocket, looking glorious on there with, again, some clouds, but still weather is good for launch today. And then we have the closeout team continuing to do work in the White Room. We got confirmation that they have successfully completed pressurizing the counterbalance pressurization. Basically, as Daryl explained it before, the side hatch for the crew module is very heavy. So in order to open it, there needs to be pressure applied to it, and that's what we just completed, right?
Right, that's exactly it. So the CB8, that counterbalance assembly that we're talking about, has to be pressurized. It's a pneumatic system to help. So in the case of an egress, Christina's the one that has to open that hatch. So once she gets it unlatched and unlocked, then that pneumatic system will help move the hatch. It weighs a lot, and so the average human cannot open that hatch by themselves. And so that's why we want to make sure that the system is pressurized, that it's not going to leak, and that it is ready to go in case they need to open the hatch.
So that is complete, and now what is happening are the seal leak checks. So that is in progress. Again, 2 seals go through the entirety of the hatch, and we will take the seals to pressure, hold it for about a minute, and just make sure that it is holding pressure. Again, we want to make sure that the crew has a safe, pressurized environment in any sort of situation while they're in Orion.
Yep, that's right. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to take a look at the starting pressure, and then after a certain amount of time, we'll take a look at the ending pressure, and then there are certain tolerances that we will accept for flight.
2 hours, 37 minutes and counting from the opening of our 2-hour launch window today at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. After liftoff, it takes less than 10 minutes to reach Earth's orbit. Let's learn more about today's ascent profile with Gary in Mission Control.
Hey, Megan. We are monitoring here in Mission Control Houston. Flight controllers are looking at data from integrity in the Space Launch System during the countdown. We're looking at some of the events happening in the White Room now and just making sure that all criteria is met to commit to launch and ascent today. It's the team you see in this room that would be looking after ascent, which is a very dynamic phase of flight. And after solid rocket booster ignition of the Space Launch System, it's this team that takes over control of the mission. There are voices you'll hear upon ascent, calls being relayed between Stan Love, the Capcom you see here in this shot in Mission Control Houston, that's the voice from this room, and the Artemis II crew on a communications channel aptly named Orion to Earth. Here are the calls you may hear during this part of the mission. Capcom Stan Love, his first call after responding to the crew's successful roll pitch maneuver at 30 seconds is AMT high. This notes that should we lose just one of the main engines, an alternate mission in low Earth orbit can still be achieved. At 1 minute 25 seconds, you'll hear max Q on PDL. This notes that reaching the moment of maximum dynamic pressure on the spacecraft. This event happens to be in line with a communication switch to another ground station, the Ponce de Leon Inlet Tracking Annex located about 35 miles north of Kennedy. At 2 minutes 45 seconds, you'll hear SM primed upper stage RCS ready. This means that the European Service Module propulsion system that's prepared for the next phase of aborts after the launch abort system jettisons, and the reaction control thrusters on the inner rim cryogenic propulsion stage that enable pointing and maneuvering are ready. At 3 minutes 50 seconds, you'll hear voice check on TDRS at the Kármán line. At this point, the launch abort system has jettisoned and revealed the Orion capsule underneath. This check verifies that the now exposed Orion antennas have a good signal over the tracking and data relay annex, tracking and data relay satellites, which is part of a geosynchronous satellite network and the same assets that are used aboard the International Space Station. This communication switch happens to be at the Kármán line, a widely recognized boundary about 62 miles, statute miles, or 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface, where the air is too thin for conventional aircraft to fly and marks the point where our astronauts leave Earth and enter space. At 5 minutes 16 seconds, you'll hear the call 3-engine press. This notes that if one of the 4 main engines on the SLS core stage were to fail, 3 engines can carry the crew to a nominal main engine cutoff and proceed with the expected mission timeline. This is an important call that gives more assurance of continuing today's moon mission. At 7 minutes, you'll hear expect nominal shutdown. You'll hear this call should the main engine performance be as expected up to this point. Shutdown plans can vary and may impact G-forces experienced by the crew or future burn plans, but a nominal shutdown is more indicative of continuing the mission on the expected timeline. At 7 minutes 30 seconds, you'll hear AOA open. This notes crossing into a new abort profile. At this point, an abort would use Orion engines to escape the core stage, and the altitude and velocity are enough to make it 1 lap around the Earth and aim for a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean instead of the Atlantic. And then, of course, shortly after 8 minutes, you'll hear nominal MECO. You won't hear MECO right away. Teams here wait until the core stage has separated and the trajectory is confirmed